Okay, folks, here's your 1-minute warning. If you're with us, we'll ask you to find a quick seat and we will get started. Okay, folks, welcome to the 37th meeting of the 25th City Council. We'll call this meeting to order. All of our councilors are present, except for Councilor Lewis, who will join us briefly. Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're all gonna stand up, have a moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by President Davis and the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish by Councilor Pena. You'll join me and stand up.
Thank you. Will you join us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. President Davis?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Let me make a couple of housekeeping notes for folks following along. I see we have a decent crowd tonight. For those of you interested in local government and little d democracy, you may be disappointed. We don't have a very big agenda for action items tonight. We, of course, have our consent agenda, and I think we'll talk about a couple of those items. We have a land use appeal this evening, but it's our intent to defer that for 2 weeks until our October meeting to be sure that all the parties have an opportunity to review the Lujo's decision and prepare for that hearing. And then the sponsor of the only item on our final action tonight also has made a motion and intends to defer that item to our next meeting. And so we have nothing to do except for our consent agenda. But we have, Kevin's got to stay. We have lots of, that means we have lots of administrative Q&A time. But we do have a number of proclamations, a presentation on housing, some Q&A, and we have the consent agenda, which means we do have some things to do. But for those of you looking at those items at the back end of the agenda, I don't think we have a big stacked agenda this evening. That doesn't mean we should take all of our time, but it certainly means that it's a good evening to have some extra proclamations and honor some of the cool things that are happening in our city. So, Madam Vice President.
Thank you. Okay. Civic Plaza parking passes are provided for members of the public. You can obtain a parking pass from council staff at the near table in the chamber entrance. Members of the public, city staff, and the media have the ability to view this meeting in person and on live streams through 4 different platforms: GovTV and Comcast on Comcast Channel 16, the GovTV website, YouTube, and Zoom webinar. The live streams can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. Also, this meeting is closed captioned, and you may enable the closed captioning services on your television or device at this time. The video recording of this and all past council meetings will remain available for viewing at any time on the City Council website. Council staff is available via telephone if members of the public need assistance finding the videos online. Please call 505-768-3100 for assistance during business hours Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. The council will take a break at approximately 7 p.m. this evening if needed. With regard to decorum in the chambers, we want tonight's proceedings to be as civil and respectful as possible. Please do not make any personal attacks, and please no applause or outbursts during the meeting. The meeting will go a lot smoother if we are all respectful of one another. At this time, we're going to do our proclamations and presentations. Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Tonight, we're recognizing the Department of Senior Affairs and its Recreation Division and their management of the Los Volcanes, Palo Duro, North Valley, and Manzano Mesa centers, senior centers and multi-generational centers, for achieving the national accreditation by the National Institute of Senior Centers on June 21st. The National Institute of Senior Centers, NISC, is part of the National Council on Aging and has 9 standards of excellence that senior centers must reach in order to achieve a national accreditation. This achievement demonstrates a commitment towards excellence that is achieved by less than 2% of all senior centers nationwide. Thank you for coming down without me reading my...
Just rush the stage.
I didn't read my script, and I didn't tell you to come on down, so thanks for doing it anyway. In addition to this important national accreditation in July, the department was awarded an NISC Program of Excellence Award in Technology, Virtual, and Hybrid Programming for its 50-plus Senior Tech Fair event. Teach technology skills to older adults who need it. We commend this department and their staff for their dedication and commitment to excellence by ensuring that our senior centers are amongst the best in the country and meeting the needs of our families as they age. And it demonstrates a huge commitment on the part of the NISC of only 2% of centers nationwide have gotten this type of accreditation. So very appreciative of that. And before I read the proc, we would especially like to recognize the contributions of Palo Duro Senior Center Manager, Antoinette Sigala. Antoinette, thanks for being here. You recently retired. We have something in common. You recently retired after 30 years of service with the department, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
We're going to read the proc and then hear from yourselves. So, September 18th, the Council of the City of Albuquerque, whereas the National Council on Aging, NCOA, is a respected national leader and trusted partner to help people ages 60 plus meet the challenges of aging, with a mission to improve the lives of millions of older adults, especially those who are struggling. The NCOA's National Institute of Senior Centers supports a network of over 3,000 senior centers professionals dedicated to helping older adults remain active, engaged, independent in their communities. And whereas the National Institute of Senior Center offers the nation's National Senior Center Standards of Excellence program to advance the quality of senior centers, they develop standards of excellence across 9 areas of senior center operations. And whereas the best practice standards includes purpose and planning, governance, administration and human resources, program development and implementation, evaluation, fiscal and asset responsibility, records and reports, facility and operations, and community connections, which serve as a quality of improvement process that strengthens overall center operations and positions them for the future. And whereas on December of 2021, the Department of Senior Affairs applied for candidate status under the National Accreditation System for Manzano Mesa Multi-Generational Center, Palo Duro Senior Center, North Valley Senior Center, and Los Volcanes Senior Center. And whereas between September 14, 2022 and through April 19, 2023, these 4 centers completed their accreditation process. And on June 21st, the centers, Palo Duro, Manzano Mesa, North Valley, and Los Volcanes were confirmed and awarded national accreditation. And whereas in addition to receiving that accreditation, the Department of Senior Affairs was awarded a Program of Excellence in Technology, Virtual, and Hybrid Programming by the NCOA National Institute on July 6, 2023, and it will be celebrated at the NCOA's Age and Action Conference. So, be it proclaimed that the City of Albuquerque and the Council, the governing body of the City of Albuquerque, hereby congratulates the Department of Senior Affairs for becoming a nationally accredited and the recipient, becoming nationally accredited and the recipient of a National Program of Excellence Award.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Madam Director.
Well, certainly this is a wonderful honor. Council President Davis and Councilor Benton, thank you for that proclamation to recognize the staff. They do tremendous work. This is not a small achievement by any means, and we're very proud to have actually 5 folks, because we have the former manager, Natasha Montoya of Manzano Mesa, now the new manager, Brittany Torres, who stepped into the accreditation role, as well as Antoinette Segala, 30 years of service, America Bicon, 10 years of service to the city of Albuquerque, Natasha, and then Anita Hamill, also over there with 30 years service. You have over 100 years of serving the city of Albuquerque and our seniors right here before you that I think is really important to recognize. And certainly we continue to do good work every day with care and compassion. So just wanted to recognize Antoinette specifically because she recently retired, and she certainly has done her job with love every single day, and we miss her already. So wanted to thank you, the council, for doing this. Thank you.
We, we see the love. I mean, everybody sees the love when we go to the centers, and really appreciate the staff and everything they do. I have a little personal connection to 2 of the 4 centers as an architect long before I was on the city council, so dear stuff to my heart, and very proud of you, and I know the other councilors are too.
Thank you for all the support, for your help with the accreditation. We
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Anyone else
Thank you.
want to? Thanks again.
Congratulations. We are very, very lucky to have such a wonderful senior center program throughout the whole city. Manzano Mesa is in our district, and we're very proud of them up there too. At this time, I'd like to have Councilor Bassan speak.
Madam Vice President, I would like to invite Elizabeth Knight and her guests to the podium. Elizabeth is a volunteer with Canine Companions and here to accept this proclamation tonight. Thank you for being here. Whereas the city of Albuquerque believes in the joyful, transformative power of human canine bond and inclusivity of all citizens, and whereas in the United States, 64 million adults and children have a disability, and only 16,000 service dogs from accredited trained programs exist nationwide, and the need is growing. And whereas Canine Companions is a nonprofit organization that enhances the lives of people with disabilities by providing expertly trained service dogs and ongoing support to ensure quality partnerships. And whereas Canine Companions and their service dogs empower people with disabilities to lead a life with greater independence by providing best-in-class training, ongoing follow-up services, and a deeply committed community of support. And whereas National Service Dog Month aims to educate our community about the benefits of service dogs and the laws protecting them. And whereas the city of Albuquerque encourages all citizens to celebrate task-trained service dogs and be respectful of the rights afforded to the adults, children, and veterans who lead more independent lives because of their assistance. Be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 National Service Dog Month. Ms. Knight, if you want to introduce the guests that you have with you, both human and furry, that would be wonderful.
Certainly, I'd like to thank the council and certainly Councilor Bassan for sponsoring this proclamation. We are all volunteers with Canine Companions, which is a national nonprofit. So let me go ahead and introduce Katrina is one of our members, and she does social media for us. Kay with Puppy, I know you can't see him up there, but we have a little black lab here, Breeze. We'll see if she'll do an up for you. There she is. And then we have over here Barbara, who's one of our graduates with actually service dog graduate Nash. And then we have Sharon with our youngest puppy here tonight, Tex. The dogs, I know you can't see them, but everyone else can. And the yellow vests are puppies in training. We have approximately 18 puppy raisers in New Mexico, and right now we have 7 puppies that are being raised in New Mexico. The only thing that slows down giving these dogs out for free is puppy raisers. We take these dogs at 8 weeks of age, and we spend 18 to 20 months socializing them. This is all part of their training tonight for those dogs in the yellow vests. You'll see they're a little bit more wiggly than our graduate in the blue vest. It takes 2 full years to train these dogs, and we're very happy to do that and be able to give them away for free. Once they graduate, like Barbara, who is one of our 9 graduates in the state of New Mexico, and we have 4 people on the waiting list, they allow them to live lives more independently than they would otherwise. I have 2 graduates that I've raised, and I've got 1 in advanced training right now, because after we finish with them as puppy raisers, they spend 6 months in professional training. My first puppy graduated with a 9-year-old boy with cerebral palsy, and he does all sorts of tasks for him. And I asked him, I said, Jay, what's the best thing about having Banks as a service dog? And I expected him to tell me about some of the tasks that Banks helps him with. And he goes, I like it when Banks is with me because no one asks me why I walk funny. So these dogs do more than what the tasks are that they were trained to do. I also have another graduate that's with a 30-year-old woman in Austin, Texas, and she told me upon graduation, if it wasn't for her service dog, she would not be able to have an apartment of her own. She would still be living with her parents. So we would like to bring awareness to service dogs. I left flyers with all the counselors, and I'd like to tell the public, you can check out canine.org to get more information and volunteer with our organization. And we appreciate the opportunity to raise awareness about service dogs during Service Dog Month, which is national throughout the United States this month. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you all.
Terrific. Thank you. Counselor Pena?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. First, before I read my proclamation, I have to move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of allowing more than 2 proclamations this evening and allowing more than 4 proclamations per counselor per calendar year. There's a motion and a second.
Oh, let's see. We have a motion to suspend the rules. Everybody's here. Will you vote by raising your hand, saying yes? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'll ask our guests to come up this evening. We have with us this evening Jennifer Burke, Madsen McCool, Katrina Fuller, and Reina Martinez, who are all here. And we have Jennifer Burke, who is with Serenity Mesa, and then somebody we don't have with us is Alan Cariaga, and he's the one that would come to me every year to ensure that we put this proclamation forward, because as you know, he's a renowned artist here in the state of New Mexico, and his art is everywhere, but he always reminds us that he was a recovering addict and he was very successful and held true to that the remainder of his life. So with that, we will start with the reading of the proclamation, and I think we're going to start with Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Councilor Pena. Whereas the United States Department of Health and Human Services Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration's mission is to lead public health and service delivery efforts that promote mental health, prevent substance misuse, and provide treatments and supports to foster recovery while ensuring equitable access and better outcomes. And
whereas National Recovery Month is a national observance held every September to educate Americans that substance use, treatment, and mental health supports can enable those with mental health and/or substance use disorders to live a healthy and rewarding life. And
whereas the nationally recognized Recovery Month began in 1989 as Treatment Works Month, honoring the work of substance use treatment professionals in the field. And in 1988, the observance was modified as National Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month, expanding to include celebrating the accomplishments of individuals in recovery from substance use disorders. That observance evolved once more in 2011 to the National Recovery Month, which now includes all aspects of behavioral health.
And whereas the City of Albuquerque, in collaboration with recovery community-based organizations, managed care organizations, the State of New Mexico's Behavioral Health Services Division, the Department of Family and Communities Behavioral Health Division, and Bernalillo County's Department of Behavioral Health and Peers Thriving in Recovery, have initiated a local National Recovery Month event entitled Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery. And
whereas Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery advocates and supports individuals with substance use and mental health disorders by providing an avenue to achieve and sustain long-term recovery and to reinforce the positive message that behavioral health is essential to the overall health of our community. Prevention works, treatment is effective, and people can recover. And
whereas the 8th annual Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery event will be celebrated throughout the month of September to increase awareness and understanding of substance use and mental health disorders, and to celebrate the gains of those in recovery.
Be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby declares September 23rd as National Recovery Month. So thank you guys for being here to accept the proclamation, and I don't know if you wanted to say share a few words. I know, Jennifer, you're just doing some really great work there at Serenity Mesa, and I'm sure all the council is familiar with the work you do and the children that you serve.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I appreciate the recognition of September being National Recovery Month. As you know, recovery is near and dear to my heart, and I've been working in this field for, oh gosh, a little over 10 years now, and I appreciate all the support that you all have given both Serenity Mesa and just all of the ideas and all of the things that we've brought forward over the years to help people who are struggling with addiction, and also to celebrate those who are in recovery. And recovery means something different for everybody, and I think that's what this month is all about. And we have a lot of different events. We had a powwow this last Friday that Madison here organized. He did a great job. We are all we're all volunteers really of Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery, of this committee. And we also have a big event on September 27th. So our next big event is September 27th. It's at Civic Plaza from 10 to 2, and I invite everybody to come out. We actually have some flyers. And just come out and visit with all the providers, and you'll hear firsthand some of the stories that we have to tell. You'll meet people that are in recovery, peer support workers. Katrina's peer support worker. My husband David, I think you guys know him, he's in recovery as well. And then Raina, she works for the city of Albuquerque and has been a huge support. So we appreciate the city of Albuquerque and everything you guys do to bring awareness to this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. President Davis?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Several meetings ago, we had begun a conversation with Family and Community Services, sort of generally about housing and the mayor's strategy for housing forward. And we had asked them to come back with the administration to tell us a little more about the housing strategy that the city council has funded or is and the administration is asking us to move forward. And so I see Mr. Montoya, Director, good to see you, and a whole bunch of other folks. And so maybe, Director, welcome, it's good to see you. You have a presentation, and so we'll let you go to it. Thanks for coming back.
Great. Thank you, Council President Davis and City Councilors. We're really glad to have this opportunity. And I think we'll take the first slide. Is it up there? But I don't see it. Oh, if you can go back. Okay. So first of all, thank you. I'd like to say we've got our key team members here tonight for this presentation. We've got Joseph Montoya, our new Deputy Director of Housing in our department. We've got Monica Montoya, who's our Community Development Division Manager, and Rick Giron, who is with Community Development in our department and our Senior Project Manager. And again, this is the new Department of Health, Housing, and Homelessness presenting to you tonight for this new, this housing presentation. So next slide, please, or the next, go back, please. Thank you. There's two key presentation objectives here. One, we really want all of you to really understand where the city has been spending the money over the last 5 years for housing, what we've done both on housing programs and housing development. And there are two distinct arms where your tax dollars, everybody's tax dollars in our budget has gone. So that's one objective for tonight's presentation. The second one is to really see the plan to address our housing shortage. And we'll talk about our 5 key objectives moving that forward to really help close that gap. And so I'll turn it over to Deputy Montoya.
Thank you, Carol. Can you hear me? Is that good? I have this booming, nasty voice. I just want to make sure I don't offend everybody. Thank you very much for allowing us to present here today. Again, my name is Joseph Montoya. For those of you who have had the opportunity to already offend at least one time, I'll probably be trying to get the rest of you to be able to get together and do the same thing at another time. I did want to have two announcements before I start. First of all, I wanted to thank the staff because they've done an incredible job. Nothing I say here today in terms of what has been accomplished I had anything to do with. But I wanted to say that staff that we have in terms of both Monica and Rick, the rest of the staff, the 5 other folks that work with us, have done an incredible job. So please keep in mind that a small amount of people have done an incredible job as we go through both the production levels that we have available to and also the programs that we have available to. In addition, I don't know if you've already heard, but we just received notice from the Department of Housing and Urban Development that we received a brand new planning grant, $500,000, to be used in the International District. And primarily, we worked with the Housing Authority to be able to look at planning for that area. And in addition, the funds, if we're successful in that, we'll be planning for multi-million-dollar grants to be able to rehab some of the units that we have in that particular area. So again, I wanted to thank the staff for putting that together and being successful in the Department of Housing and Urban Development grant. It's highly competitive. We were one of only 14 in the nation to be able to achieve that. I wanted to start, first of all, to be able to thank the council and be clear about what we're talking when we say affordable housing, because a lot of people, is always asking, well, what is affordable housing? Is there actually some real definition for this? And it is actually a defined term. As we know, there is a lot of apartment units going up in the city of Albuquerque. Many of them are not considered affordable. And so I want to speak very specifically on what we talk, when we say affordable housing, what we're saying for it. Now, the city of Albuquerque defines affordable housing as housing affordable to people of 80% of median income. And a lot of this will be gobbledygook until I actually get down to numbers. But, and then 30% of the income should go to housing. So that's kind of the definition used. That's a universal definition. Some cities have higher income levels. No city in New Mexico that I'm aware of actually has a lower income level than that. And the Department of Housing and Urban Development defines as 30% median throughout the nation. That's generally, of course, what we've used. One of the reasons why we have to define affordable housing is because it has to be defined because of the Affordable Housing Act in order to make sure that we can use public monies, local monies, in use for specific under specific standards, and these are the standards that we use. So if you look at this chart, we have, when we're talking about the lowest income person, a single family household income, we're looking for a rent of $420 a month. Right? So that's the maximum, if you define affordable housing at that, $420 a month. That's kind of the hard number that we talked about. And then for 4 people, let's say for people at 80%, which is kind of the largest you would have, it's over $1,500 a month. So that's the range when we talk affordable housing. That's not like, oh, it's $700 or $600. So just be aware, and we have to go through these calculations when we're underwriting developments. We have to go through these calculations when we're sending people in. We go through these calculations when we're using vouchers. Just so you know, so it's not an easy definition, but in general, it's a relationship between people's income and what can they afford to pay under a certain benchmark, and that benchmark is 8% median income. In addition, I wanted to say that what we're going to be presenting to you is a culmination of lots of different plans. This is what I wouldn't call this a plan per se when we get to how we're moving forward, but I would say that this is an outline on the strategies we're specifically going to use. Now, we have lots of current housing plans, several of which you have already approved. One, there's a 27 consolidated plan. That is a federally mandated fund. We are an entitlement city, and so we have to actually produce this kind of plan to be able to show how we're going to use federal funds. And this is a plan that you have approved some months ago. In addition, we have the Affordable Housing Act plan. This is also the plan that allows us to use general money for the purpose of affordable housing, and we indicate on that how we're going to be able to use this. And this is also a plan you have. As you know, we've been very active recently in the development of affordable housing strategies and affordable housing thoughts and proposals have come to you. And so there's been a series of both needs assessments, studies that we've used in order to consolidate these things and put them together in kind of one final small document for you. Part one of the studies, the LI study, is based on how we get to this 30,000 units that we need in order to come into market equilibrium. Very important number. A number that we come at 5,000 units is how much the city, along with its partners in terms of nonprofit partners, development partners, the housing authority, the county, because we're working very closely with the county, can work together to produce specific, more affordable housing. So let's go to funding sources. And If I'm taking too long or I'm taking too short, let me know. So generally speaking, right, these are the funding sources that we've used recently in order to produce the amount of production that we've received, right? So you'll see a large amount of funds coming from the Department of Housing and Development, home funds, CDBG funds. Those are continuous dollars. They've increased slightly over the years, but generally, it's a trickled amount of money. Of course, you have been very generous, and you provided $20,000 of gross receipts tax funds. And of course, naturally, the city of Albuquerque was considered a leader in affordable housing throughout this state when you all passed, and thank you, Councilor Benton, when you all passed the ability to do bond issuances for the development of affordable housing. And that through the years has provided $42 million since his existence. Now, sounds like a big amount of money, but as you all know, $42 million now will buy you maybe 120 units of multifamily housing now. So we really have to really work on our ability to increase those kind of pots. In addition, we did combine, we have information for you, we did combine both affordable units and non-affordable units. So the Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency has actually provided an enormous amount of funds and units. Now, they haven't been affordable. And so we're working with the Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency to really combine our resources so that we can increase the amount of affordable housing we have available. We'll talk a little bit about that later when we talk about the plan. So, as Carol had mentioned, types of programs. So the first idea is what kind of programs we've developed here recently. A lot of these programs are new programs, and they were developed during the COVID-related times because extra federal funds available to be able to increase them. But things like home buyer assistance, this is where mortgage assistance, down payment assistance, eviction prevention for renters. We put a lot of money in terms of a local agency for legal services in order to be able to assist renters in terms of eviction processes. We have a new deposit insurance and also some funds available. So for instance, if one of the renters actually breaks down a place, that we'll be able to securitize that. And of course, we have a ongoing homeowner rehabilitation program, and we've used extensively housing vouchers. So just a little detail about that's the length and types of programs we have. But a little detail about that. We've had our mortgage reduction program. We had over 65 people in that mortgage reduction program. That's pretty good for a program that we just kind of started right off and had federal funds available for. We had 151 folks in our tenant-based rental assistance. That's using TBIR funds, which is home fundings, which is a constant use that we've been having over the last 5 years. We've helped over almost 3,000 people with eviction prevention programs these last few years. So we're really happy about the number of people we've been able to reach with particular programs. So building is one thing, right? But it's just a shell unless sometimes you have services and systems for folks to be able to use those buildings. As a highlight for that, thank you very much. 2018, so we're using 5-year time period spans, 5-year time period spans, because that is what our consolidated plan also uses. There are over $36 million in city investment in these programs. Created 11 programs, 5 of them being brand new, and we've helped over 42,000 people. So it's an extraordinary amount of assistance with a very small team of people to be able to get to this level of programs. Got a long way to go. There's still a lot of unserved people to be able to do this, but it's remarkable in terms of what you've been able to do with your city funds and leveraging federal funds to make a difference in people's lives. The real heart and soul, though, of course, is that, as you know, hey, we gave you money. Where's the projects? Where's the units? And I think really that's the bottom line here, because we can do vouchers and we can do eviction prevention and we can do different programs, but they're not of value unless we have a place to go. You can have all the vouchers you want, but if you have no place to go, it doesn't matter, right? So we are really in need of a lot more unit production, and very specifically affordable housing unit production. And so we're going to tell you a little about the type of units that we have already developed and are in development stages now. So one, we have new affordable housing construction. This is ground-up construction, new designs, new development on raw land, housing preservation. So one of the things that's hitting us now is that a lot of tax credits, these are federal low-income housing tax credit projects that have been used, are getting out of their affordability. They've already been affordable for 15 years or 20 years, depending on the period of time that they actually came in. We could easily lose those. And folks that are living there all of a sudden can't afford the new rent schedules because those rent schedules can easily go up because it's not mandated that we do affordable housing there anymore. So it's important to reinvest in those. In addition, we've also reinvested, we've worked with the Housing Authority to reinvest in the units that they operate because they don't receive enough monies from the federal government to maintain and operate the current units that they have. As you know, you've started this motel-hotel conversion program, and we'll talk a little bit about it. We're very happy. Our first acquisition is Sure Stay. Got a new name for that, Los Altos Lofts. And it's going on schedule, on budget. We're doing it in phases. Our third phase will be finalized by December. And then, of course, we've done a lot of supportive housing, right? Folks who need a little extra assistance that, just low rent is going to help them. We have a lot of our population that has substance abuse issues, mental health issues. They've come from tragic situations and are in need with a little more assistance to be able for them to be able to survive in today's environment. And this is what we call in supportive housing. So under new construction, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. But here are both specific units, the number of units that we've assisted in developing, designing, and financing through the last 5 years. Some of them, actually, I've had a hand in this. I used to be the director for the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority, and so several of these units I finance on the backside using federal loan housing tax credits and different federal funds and state funds that I had available to me. So we worked in partnership with the city of Albuquerque, back then especially, and this is way back then, I'm really old, in the downtown developments. And so a lot of the downtown developments in the downtown area are affordable housing units. You don't know them by looking at them, right? They're beautiful units. We have a lot of people coming in all the time that aren't affordable, that want to be able to live there and live in convenient, nice, beautiful places, but they are in fact income restricted. Second one, please. Rehab and preservation. So these are examples of the units, for instance, that we have worked on that existed, as I was talking to, that are either losing their income qualifications or that we had built and had put more money in. So there's something like, for instance, in Sawmill there that we've assisted with. Units that were built with under the Housing Authority that we've assisted and just opened just recently. And so, a complex, single-family complex that was in real need of assistance, and we finally actually just took over the construction, processing, and now own it and operate it. Next one. And again, as I've spoken previously, these are supportive housing developments. Of course, Hope Village is one of the biggest ones, and you see when you're coming down 4th Street. 4th Street, I believe, into downtown, that we're very proud of in terms of both its construction and the folks that it's housing. And these are kind of units that folks are on site providing a lot more supportive housing, a lot more support systems in order for them to be able to live there. So here's the big push here, the big ugliness in terms of how much we've done. In total, we've had 31 new construction units. Now, I just want to be clear, these units include the ones that the MRA has funded. So I just want to be clear about that. And we do have a spreadsheet if you wish in terms of all the units that we've done, where all the money's come from, where they're located, and things of that nature. So that's available to you if you are in need of it. We've created, in the last 5 years, over 2,000 units. Over half of them have been affordable. And that's over $71 million of city investment that has been provided. And again, the total amount of funds for these units, $492 million. So half of, an extraordinary amount of funds. Remember that this adds jobs. You can't outsource housing, right? This provides local construction jobs. This provides local folks to be able to build equity. This provides local folks to be able to have a place to live. And this provides a stable environment so that households can form and go on and be members of our society. So housing trends. Oh, I was wondering, hey, where is it? Do you have it? Yeah, okay, thank you. You've heard these stats before, right? They're terrible, awful stats. I've been doing research to see, part of these stats is what we call affordable housing indexing. And so again, it's the relationship of what people earn and what people can either rent or buy. And as far as I can tell right now, at least as far back as I've gone, we are in the least affordable period that we have ever been in our existence. Now, I can't say that definitively yet, still go back many years past the 70s, but at least from the data that we can hold right now, we're in a crisis situation. Rents have increased exorbitantly, substantially, over 20% since 2021, right? Right now, our median price housing price is over $359,000, almost $360,000. Only 30% of Albuquerqueans can afford to pay that, right? So that means 70% of the population, 70% of our constituents, 70% of our fellow citizens literally can't afford to live here, in essence, right? If in fact they had to start all over, right? This is the worst stat that I have seen to date in terms of the city of Albuquerque. Now, I came from Santa Fe. We'd love to get to that level. What we don't want to have happen is what's happened in Santa Fe is Albuquerque to go in that direction, right? You lose your history, you lose your culture, you lose your environment, you lose everything that Albuquerque stands for. And so it's incredibly important that we address this before we get over that hump. Again, this Housing Forward report that I had mentioned earlier, that's over, the question was, and the question to ask was, how are we going to get to 5,000 units of housing? Right now, our total production, and it's impressive with what's done currently, but we need to increase our production from over 250 units a year, which is what we're doing in terms of the city of Albuquerque's assistance with, again, with our nonprofits and our housing assistance providers, to 1,000 units here, to be able to get to at least 5,000 units in 5 years. And remember, that 5,000 units is a small percentage of the total 30,000 units that we need, right? So to get anywhere close to market equilibrium, right? And so the city only has really two levers to pull, right? We have the ability to change our land use systems to make it easier to get from A to B, right? Quicker, faster, easier, important to be have done. And once we get there, to allow things to happen, the general issue is at a more dense level, right? So if you have 1 acre per unit and you have only one house on there, you're paying for that whole land. If you have 6 units on there, you're paying 1/6 the cost. And your development costs go down substantially because of that. And the other thing is subsidy, right? So right now, it is literally impossible for the private sector to actually build units for people at 80% of income without subsidy, meaning take the cost of land, the cost of labor, the cost of money, the cost of building materials, and you add that all up together, right? This is any builder, developer, financer trying to put something together. The cost of doing that is far and above what we would consider affordable. So the only way to achieve that, right, is pushing those two levers. So I'm here primarily to talk about just one of those levers. What we were asked to do is in terms of attempting to find how do we get to those 5,000 units. And so we came up with a plan pretty quickly, pretty fast, because we already had all these other plans that you have approved. You had the detailed data already. You had systems analysis already in place. You had a lot of people already thinking about this. So this is just kind of the cherry on top, as it might be. One, we need to leverage our funds considerably, right? So right now, as I had mentioned earlier, for instance, the MRA, right, is developing a lot of housing units, or has historically, right? But they're not affordable. We need to be able to combine our resources a lot more efficiently and a lot more effectively to be able to build affordable housing unit MRA resources. And talk to Terry about this. He's all go for this. And it's just, and we're working on a couple projects already in that we can combine our money to leverage each other's resources. Another opportunity, for instance, is to be able to leverage transportation resources, right? There's in terms of creating transportation-related design works. And so it's incredibly important for us to be able to acquire land when we're doing transportation centers. There's a federal government law that allows us to use land that was bought with transportation monies to go vertical for affordable housing, and then be able to define better where we're putting our affordable housing. Because right now, we provide affordable housing where developers and builders come to us and say, hey, I've got this land available, I think I can make a deal, this is cheap enough. We're not defining it. And it's important for us to be able to say, we want housing, for instance, where there's transportation resources. So people may or may not necessarily need a car, right? And us defining that and putting funds into that, along with the rest of the other departments of the city, I think will enhance our ability to do things.
Sorry, we're ahead on the,
Oh,
so you're on 2. You just
Yeah.
finished leveraging on the next.
again, this also talks about leveraging state land. We're working very closely with the planning department. Councilor Davis, should I move it on quickly? Sorry, okay. So leveraging, finding out exactly where our land is, what is available, what can we, is there strings attached to it, and be able to identify those places that might be a good way for us to actually provide affordable housing. Administrative changes. Again, we're not good at allowing our program well with Mortgage Finance Authority resources, right? And they have an enormous amount of resources. They have more resources than we're taking advantage of, and quite frankly, we're not getting our share. And so one of the things we have to do is making sure that we're working with our nonprofits and our for-profit organizations and the Housing Authority to align our systems and goals with theirs. So when they're putting out RFPs and they're putting out their tax credits, one, we know exactly what they want and need, and we're addressing it before that time, making us far more competitive with anybody else in the state. I'll leave it at that. So affordable housing planning resources, developing, if in fact we're able to acquire new funds, we want to create several new programs to be able to assist with the development of affordable housing. One of the key programs will be, one of the things that you just passed is the development of ADUs, and the ADUs will add in the overall amount of housing that we need, right? But it won't necessarily be affordable at all unless we have a role in terms of financing those ADUs. So we want to be able to assist in doing that. Another thing that may be available, right now just developing single-family, nice picket fenced, 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, right, is exorbitantly expensive, right? You're subsidizing that by hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it for somebody that's affordable housing. One way we can deal with this, we can transform apartments to condos and give people a chance to start building equity, give people a chance to start that first house, because getting over that hump as that first house, as you know, that's the hardest, most major thing to be able to accomplish in order to build wealth for the future. And we talked about the need for increasing the amount of staff. Staff has done an incredible job, and we're really appreciative of it. But when we're going from 250 units a year to 1,000 units a year, that's going to take more investment from a city staff perspective. So when we talk about what we're looking for, and this, right now we're looking for different ways to be able to enhance our current housing trust fund. As I had mentioned, we have one, but it's very low in terms of amount of funding. We're looking at a minimum of $20 million per year, every single year, right, as a continuous process, right? And you have provided $20 million already. We've shown you what we've done with it. We will continue to do that. So it's not an outlandish amount. Again, $20 million a year, if not leveraged, will only buy you 1/2 of one development. So be clear, it sounds big, but in today's dollars, it's not a lot of money. And I'll end up with, specifically, I won't go in terms of the affordable housing, how we intend to spend that money if we get it. Next slide. Oh, there you go. And so those are the specifics in terms of where we thought we were able to, we have the resources, the capacity externally, capacity internally, to be able to produce these kind of developments with these kind of units to be able to get us to 5,000 units. Now, remember, 5,000 units starts when you show me the money, right? You need the money. to start this process. And with that, Chairman Davis, my apologies for being long-winded, but this is my first shot, and so I wanted to make it a long one. With that, any questions you might have, I'd be happy. And anytime you have any questions, any issues after this, and or any times, please feel free to contact me. I'm more than happy to explain the issues of design, finance, engineering, to be able to see how we're actually going to get to these kind of processes.
Thank you. Counselors, any questions? Counselor Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. So, right near the end, you said something that was a red flag for me, and that was the use of the term internal capacity. I've heard that a lot over the years when we're talking about affordable housing and hearing how we just can't do more than this, than what we're doing. The narrative that I've heard from this department or its predecessor over the years, that's unacceptable, okay? Internal capacity, here's the other side of my comment and or question. We've passed, this council has passed 2 bills now about collaborating with the county. There was no mention of, you made no mention of that in your presentation. Now, I know that that's embryonic. I know we're just building that. But that, in terms of capacity, that's the way we're going to build capacity, is to work with the county. Furthermore, I mean, I know the feds have a lot of money. Well, the feds also have a lot of requirements, all right, that drag things out. The state has a lot of money. So, I mean, I haven't heard any of that from you or from this administration, for that matter, to be really honest with you, about those kind of collaborations and expectations that we and our citizens and people who need this housing and people who support the housing that you presented, and it was a good presentation, of what they expect of us all as governmental entities. So I just wanted to see if you would address that.
Chairman Lewis, Councilor Benton, thank you very much for catching that. First of all, you're absolutely right. One of our key partners, I hope I mentioned it because I've written it down, is actually the County of Santa Fe. County of Albuquerque, sorry. County of Santa Fe could be, but County of Bernalillo County. And the reason is because they are in the same situation we are. And we serve the same folks, and they have the same needs. And as you know, you've already passed legislation as an MOU to be able to working together. And we have a meeting once every 2 weeks. As you know, we did a little walk around the other day to investigate some possibilities of land and buildings that they own. And working collectively is the only way I think that you're right. It's the only way collectively that we're going to get done, because we can be able to leverage their resources. One thing that they're extremely good at, for instance, is issuing bonds, especially for 4% bonds. They're extremely capable. They do it fast. They do it quickly. They do it efficiently. And they do it easier than the Mortgage Finance Authority does. And so that is one of the avenues by which collectively, if we're putting out RFPs and we're timing those RFPs in order to be able to get both 9% and 4% funds, that's a very specific position. So I thank you for asking that. The other thing that you asked is the state of New Mexico. And so we have been actively speaking to the state of Mexico, and actually just Thursday and today, we've had conversations with the state of New Mexico. They actually have a little money available right now that they may wish to be able to part with. And we're trying to convince them that the best place to part with it is actually the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, primarily because we're ready to go. We've just gone through an RFP process. Many of the developments that attempted to get money that could use the funds, we didn't have enough money for, but they're ready to go. They've already achieved some level of financing. All of them have already achieved tax credits. That's a perfect opportunity for the governor to be able to say, we can get this money out quickly, and we can help assist in financing these developments that are not only on the board, but already in past pre-development. So we really are counting that relationship. In addition, lastly, it's only collectively that we go with Bernalillo County to go to the state legislature this next year, and are already working on our capital improvements programming and assistance for funding, and how far we're going to be able to go. And one of the main criteria, and the county's already said this, and I know both yourselves and the mayor are firmly behind getting more state money for these developments. Now, as you will see in our thing, we've received actually quite a bit of state money. We've done fairly well. We can do better.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up, but yeah, to be really clear, I think the term that was used is, and I don't want to saddle the department because some of the leaders of the department were here at that time, but I think a previous CAO may have said something along that we don't have the elastic strength was the term used. And maybe that's a good term, you know, that's an interesting term, but our old ways of doing things. And I really appreciate that you're going to finally, that, you know, it's been a long time of people calling for it, to have open RFPs. Anybody that's ready with a project, the doors should be open. And so I'm glad that's going to be the case in the future, and people not following arbitrary timelines and deadlines for their submissions to develop projects. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. President Davis.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And Mr. Montoya, thank you for being here, and thank you, Director Pierce, back there somewhere. This presentation actually came out of a conversation we all had on one of your first days on the job with the director and Mr. Real, Councilor Benton, and Councilor Feeblecorn and I sat down to sort of get an assessment of sort of what is the city's progress on housing. And one of the things we asked for was, what's the list of stuff we've done? And nobody seemed to have one. I'm glad to see that exists, and we can put that together. If you would send that spreadsheet over, I think that answers the question we started with.
Let's hand it out.
Seems like the director may have it.
We'll hand it out now.
Yeah, if you would, please. If our staff could help us, I think that might be useful for the conversation. And thank you all. Thanks, Matthew. Director, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned a couple of things, and I want to plant a seed here. We talked about the Workforce Housing Trust Fund. That's something I know Councilor Benton has been a big champion of for years. This council has. But it has a dismal account balance at the moment. What is the account balance in the Workforce Housing Trust Fund available for new housing?
Virtually zero. So we intend for this new funds to come available for us. And one thing that we've looked at is we're being able to get the money out as soon as we get it. So right now, we're preparing 3 different RFPs for funds that we either just recently are creating because of closing out of different programs, or funds that, for instance, that we just recently thought about that the state of New Mexico would be providing. So thank you, state of New Mexico. And so the idea is to get these funds out as quickly as possible within the timelines that the developments are ready to take them, right? So the idea of this open forum, this open timeline for things to be made available when they can take it down is incredibly important for us.
And I appreciate that, and I do think it's important because I want to make thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I think it's important. I want to point out, though, and I appreciate this, you know, in order for us to get to where we need to be, we have to do $20 million a year. The council set aside some of the federal dollars to get that started a few years ago to ramp that up. And I give credit for all the programs and the projects that have been accomplished, but when we do the math, in the last 5 years, from 2018 to 2023, there's less than 600 units, about 538 affordable units by my count, right?
Almost 1,000 actually in total.
Actually, the majority of those, 500 of those, are on the 24, 25, 26, and 27 list. So almost half of the count was 1,000.
Excuse me.
They haven't been done yet.
That's right.
Many of them haven't been started. And so that's kind of my point, though, is we've been asking for, with all that money all these years, we've gotten less than 500 new affordable housing units. And I do think it's important that we've done the rehab to keep people there. But at this pace and this scale, this has not been a priority, despite our pushing and pressing. We put $80 million into the Gibson Health Hub Center and got 0 people getting housing out of that in the last 2 years. That's 4 years worth of housing money that could have built 4,000 housing units by your math. And so this goes back to a little bit, like I realize the math is not equal there, but this really goes back to my personal frustration, right? You know, there's $7.5 million in the GO bond package going to voters in November. But as I recall, sorry, I wanted to get the right number here. The mayor's initial proposal for affordable housing was just $4 million. The council almost doubled it to $8 million. What concerns me is that the plan for the Albuquerque Housing Forward was 5,000 units that the mayor announced last year. But their proposal to us in the GO bond program and the proposal in the general budget program was far less than the need to create, to achieve that goal. And so I agree with Councilor Benton. It's important that we open those RFPs up. We've asked for 3 years to do that now. I think we just did that in the IDO updates this year to remove that nonprofit restriction in some of the zoning areas for public housing development. But it is frustrating to hear this is a priority. This is something we want to work on. We've created 500 units in 5 years for affordable, and there's 15,000 that we need. And given the opportunity, the administration has not come forward and asked and brought us a plan that funds the need. I think this is an important step. I'm glad we have this, and I'll be excited to pass this on to the next council, and I know that everybody's paying attention. I do think it's good, and we've had a positive meetings, and I think it's glad you're here. I think, Director, you've done a fabulous job with the limited tools that we've been able to allocate for this project. But I think the priorities are backwards, right? There's enough money in that one unit of place over there, had we started that 4 years ago, to have almost all of these units in the 5,000 bucket built. And that's kind of frustrating to me. I realize we need it. I'm a supporter of the concept of the gateway, but we've been saying for 4 years now, there's no point in building the front door gateway if there's nowhere to put them out. And this does not get us, at current capacity, this does not get us to meeting the outflow need from the projections of the gateway center's intake, which is supposed to be a new cohort of people every 60 to 90 days. And so what I'm trying to understand, and I'll end my speech on this note, this is good. I think this council should support it, but we're halfway through the year and there's not enough money to do this based on the current budget. So how do we get to 20 million this year to meet this goal for this year? And what's the administration's plan to get the next 20 million from local funds to unlock the other dollars? And this still does not meet the need for, or the output need for the Gateway Center. So what is required to meet all the people who will need housing and services from Gateway? Because the math doesn't add up. So money today, money tomorrow, and then is this enough or what's the next phase?
Chairman DeSantis, thank you very much. I can't tell you because I haven't done the analysis on the output for the Gateway Center. I think that's a very good metric for me to be able to look at. So first of all, I want to acknowledge your thought on that.
Deputy Director, let me ask, and I appreciate that, but that's my point. I think this is a good strategy for, these are all the tools in our toolbox, and if we have this much money, we can do this. My concern is that someone created an arbitrary number, and maybe it's not arbitrary, of making 5,000 units in so many years, but we also committed $80 million to creating a place where this many people will walk out the back door prepared for housing, and this does not create the housing that those people need. And so my concern is we throw people in the front door and then they're back out on the street, and this does not solve that problem. To me, this is a good first step. It tells us about the tools, but it doesn't meet the outflow. So I think I want to be sure that by the time we get to 1,000 units at 2027, there are enough of those for the folks that need them, and this doesn't, the math doesn't match from what you guys have told us so far.
Chairman, yeah, I agree with you. As far as I can tell, and I've done an enormous amount of research because I read all those plans, I didn't see a place by where there was a match between what resources we need and what to be able to, and the idea of 5,000 units, which is what this is all about. So doing the numbers backwards in terms of here's our cost of units, here's the kind of programs we run, here's what we can leverage. That's why the 20 million from the city is important to be able to assist in getting that place. Now, that alone won't get us there. We still have to leverage an enormous amount of funds, but capital attracts capital. And so we have to have enough to be able to do that. There's no question right now, we don't even have enough units to deal with the current needs of people who haven't even started Gateway, right?
Well,
we are in such a deficit right now.
And Director, let me add, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but we have 800 people on a housing voucher waiting list, and this doesn't create the number of units for the people on the waiting list, so this won't even serve the people on the list, much less people on the street, right?
Chairman Davis, that's exactly correct. Okay. Right now, not only the vouchers that the Public Housing Authority has, but the Housing Authority, has, and that we have, we need to be able to provide a lot more immediately, or as soon as possible, right, in order to get that production levels up, right? And again, as I mentioned, our current production levels ain't going to get us there. And so we need to ramp up that, and we need to get the financial resources to be able to make that plausible. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic quite frankly, right? Everybody has spoken to this, hasn't been an argument about, oh, that we should or shouldn't do this. The argument is where are we getting the money from, right? So at least in that, that's positive. Let us research where we get that money from. And like I say, I'm very optimistic right now about our relationship with the state, as it might be, at least relative to affordable housing, in order to be able to get these funds. Remember, also in addition to the funds that come directly from the state of New Mexico is providing, this first year they thought it was going to be $20 million. It's going to be something like $36 million in new funds to the New Mexico Housing Trust Fund that's operated by Mortgage Finance Authority. We are not getting our fair share. We need to be able to get half or more of those funds available to us. And that's our intention when we talk about our administrative system procedures more aligning with what they're doing.
And Madam Vice Chair, I'll close by saying thank you. I don't mean to end on a bad note. I think this is an excellent first step. Giving us a picture of this, giving us a picture of what we have and how we've done that is important. I know County Commission Chair Baca and I met with the governor during the session about housing match, and she made it very clear to Councilor Benton's point that she was not interested in matching the city of Albuquerque's dollars or the county's dollars, that we need to work together to leverage those so that they can be maybe a third partner instead of a half and half, so those dollars go farther. I think the leveraging is right, and we do have those MRA tools and others. But my optimism with the state is not quite there yet because there hasn't been a lot of action out of the one thing she asked us to do, and we're going into pre-appropriation interim committees. And I was in Las Cruces with some legislators at an interim committee who specifically asked us how that project was going, and we haven't done anything yet. We haven't even hired a person to run it yet. So I think we're a little behind. But I do want to say I appreciate it. Other counselors want to weigh in. This is the good first step. I'm really glad you're here, and you know that. But I do think there's more to be done. What concerns me is we need $20 million in the city, and even if the bonds pass this year, we're at about half of that. And so somehow this council at mid-year is going to have to come up with $10 million more, or we're not going to meet the very basic minimum needs to fund not even a third of the people on the housing waiting list, much less anybody on the street. And so we're going to have to decide what capital projects are not as important this year. We're going to have to decide what other things are not as important this year, what priorities of this council and the mayor are not as important right now. This is important, and if we can't even get enough units for the folks that are on our list, people need to know we're not going to make progress with the folks that are going through Gateway or other places until we have that housing. And so I appreciate the time, and thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for the patience.
Sure, thank you. Thank you. Let's see, Councilor Bassan.
Madam Vice President, if you all will try to keep up with me, I've chicken scratch notes all over my paper of random comments to the different conversations in addition to questions. First, I want to say that I am definitely an advocate for eviction prevention. I love to see that that's on there. I think that if we can minimize how many people lose the house that they're living in, that's great. I know that I have some boundaries on some of that, but at the same time, I do think it's important. Same with open RFPs. Absolutely, I support that, and I think that we should, give our business to who's ready and who's willing and who can do the quality and the quantity. I do have some questions when it comes to the presentation, though. I'm getting to the point where sometimes we get enough details that they conflict or they confuse, and I saw that in this presentation. So it was approximately on slide number 3, where one of them, it was on the city funding sources slide. I just want to know, what are the asterisks for? There's one asterisk and then there's 2 asterisks. I'm assuming it means city funded something or others at the bottom, but there wasn't a leading asterisk, so I want to confirm. I do want to confirm, though, that they're not hiding some other meaning somewhere.
It's Chairman Davis. Commissioner Bassan. Yeah, so I didn't mean to make him hide anything. So the one asterisk under Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency, that was just an asterisk that that money didn't go to affordable housing. So just to make you aware, the whole list that you have, that is affordable and non-affordable units. So that amount of money, because we're talking about affordable housing, I wanted to make it clear to the council that aren't all affordable units.
So with the Metropolitan Redevelopment Funding, there are some that are affordable, and that's why it was included at all? Because it sounds to me like you should have just left it off the list.
We were asked to make sure that we included all the developments that the city had done and then highlight the affordable ones. So that's why we put the asterisk there. So good call. That's
Very glad I clarified.
Exactly why we have that.
Affordable housing.
Right.
Okay.
That's not, yeah. Now, it's money that the city has used, but it didn't go to affordable housing.
I hope that the city makes sure not to claim that they're using that money for affordable units when they forget to detail some of those in the stats when we go ahead and provide that to the public in the future. I will say too, there was another slide when you're talking about the consolidated and affordable housing plans and studies. I really, really hope that the plans that are on that slide, there's those two were at the top, the consolidated plan and the affordable housing plan. I hope that they're plans based off of the results from the studies. Because if anyone's heard me before, I hate studies because almost always we do nothing with the results. There's no sense in doing any study and spending money on it if you're not. So I really hope, can you tell me, are those two plans leveraging the results from all of the other studies listed on that slide?
Chairman, Councilor, in some senses, yes or no, only because of timing. So the plans would start their development a whole year ahead of when they're planned, and some of these studies came out actually after the development and approval of the plan. So a lot of these plans are new. Now, in essence, though, there's nothing contradictory. The reality is, a lot of the plans will detail, oh, we need this for special needs housing, or we need this for people under 30% of income, or, oh no, we need so many units for this specific type of development. At the end of the day, we just need more housing, right? And we need a lot more affordable housing. You can cut it and dice it, but under no circumstances, unless we had, millions upon millions, I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, are we going to meet the needs to the point where it's, oh my God, we finished that need, we're taken care of. We've developed all the units we need for people with physical disabilities.
Thank you.
We're not even close. So there's nothing contradicting those plans, but in terms of the times that they came out, some of them actually came out beforehand that those plans were created.
Madam Vice President, a couple more. So yet another reason why I dislike studies. It seems like they happen and it takes so long to get the results. They're irrelevant by the time we get the results from them. So just making my 2 cents on that one. But Madam Vice President, so one of the other questions I have is the other slide. You indicated that one group and one study somewhere out there says that we need 5,000 units now. And the other one on the same slide says we need 30,000 units. Which one is it?
Madam Chair.
That's a big spread.
Councilor Bassan, actually it was the same study. So what the study indicated is that we need minimally 30,000 units to essentially become what we call kind of the business market equilibrium, where there's a relationship between the amount of units that are needed and the amount of units that are being produced. 30,000, big number. What the city administration has decided, of that 30,000, we need to be able to get to that 5,000 units is what the city could possibly do, right, in terms of a total number. Now, that being said, I want to be clear, I couldn't find anybody that said how much it would cost to get to those 5, which is what you're hearing today.
Okay.
Yes.
And so of the 5,000, is that we need to do 5,000 each year or every 3 years or, I mean, again, these numbers you have to understand when we see it all on a slide, this is where the skepticism and the lack of trust from the community and myself included comes from. When you see a whole bunch of numbers that the dots don't line up in clarity, it's hard to really believe in it. So 5,000 and 30,000 from the same study, it still to me is pretty ambiguous, but still a big need. So 5,000 units by when?
Chairman Davis, what we said is 5,000 units over a 5-year period of time. So that's when I say, right now we're at a level of 250 units of production a year. We need to get to 1,000 units of production a year over the next 5 years to create 5,000 units. Now, that being saying, one of your points is very good, right? In five years, let's just say by some miracle, let's just say that we have the staffing systems in place, we have the money in place, we have interest rates are acceptable, building costs have stabilized in terms of materials, let's just say. Is that number going to be different in 5 years? You bet you it will.
Is it going to be worse?
Who knows, right? Because we don't know what the demographics are in terms of people leaving, people coming. We do know that we are actively trying to recruit new businesses to come to Albuquerque. And this is a good thing, right? We want new economic development opportunities for people. We also want a place not to make sure that people that are here don't get displaced by higher income people. So studies are good for only a while, and I agree with that completely.
And I agree, and I hear what you're saying, and Madam Vice President, this is another interjection based off of what you just said about bringing businesses in. Kohl's is leaving. Tomorrow's their last day at Coronado Mall, so that's another business leaving, not coming in, which is going to potentially make things worse in 5 years if we keep on this trajectory. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think it's time for a lot of realism. I think that on this list, and when you say 5,000, when you say 5,000 units built by whom? Is that built by the city of Albuquerque?
Oh, no. Chairman, Councilor, so when we say, we're saying not built, assisted by when we assume we have a whole host of non-profit partners, we need to open it to for-profit partners if we have this money available. We work very closely with the county. We work very closely with the Housing Authority. So we work closely with MFA. All of those we can form deeper, better partnerships. And in order to be able to assist in financing, assisting for financing for the state and MFA, and being able to build. Now, just so you know, none of those folks that I just mentioned, they don't actually build anything, right? It's the contractor that they hire to build. Our role is to assist in the financing of it. So 100% of the monies we would use would assist in leveraging other funds and financing units. Quite frankly, subsidizing units, to be thoroughly honest.
And I just wanted to make sure that we all had the right verbiage for making sure that we're very clear on things. Only a couple more, Madam Vice President. So really, this is a comment now. I'm done with questions for the most part, but you said at one point in time that we need to leverage enormous amounts of funds in order to get this done, and we have a $1.4 billion budget, and in my opinion, if we start spending money better, that's a good opportunity. I don't want to put more money in Gateway, and I know we're already into it. I'm tired. We're not doing it right. That's $80 to $100 million that we know of, and we could be using that money and our $1.4 billion budget to get to a point where this would be more beneficial. And I know you all have heard it over and over, but I'm saying it out loud. I think that it needs to be very clear from my perspective. We have to use those and leverage those enormous amounts of funds, but as the city of Albuquerque, I think we should do it in a very smart way and change those priorities so that we can get it done. And then, Councilor Davis, you said that it's a great first step, and I do agree, but wow, is this first step too late? Why did it take till now to find out that this is the first step of getting our ducks in a row and getting all of that? I'm happy that you're here so that you can do that. If this is what we need and you're hired and this is where we're getting, thank God. Because at this point, we should have had this for a long time ago, and we have to get better at being the biggest city in Albuquerque and doing things for our community, because I don't see it working in a very smart way at this point in time.
Thank you. Let's see, Councilor Feeblecorn.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us this information. I really do think this is kind of what we were asking for at that original meeting. I did not know about half of the things on this spreadsheet. So my first request is could you send me this spreadsheet electronically so my old eyes can actually see it?
Be happy to.
And then just a couple of questions, Madam Vice Chair. One, you mentioned identifying city and state land that's available for development. Has that been mapped?
Chairman Davis, Councilor, that's actually what we're working now. We're working very closely with planning department. And what we're doing, actually we have two initiatives. One is to assemble the information that we have in-house already, right? And my request was, and it's being worked on now, is, okay, tell me where the MRA is. Tell me where the zoning is. Tell me exactly where our transportation nodes are, right? You know, our centers and corridors. And if I can overlay that kind of information in very specific areas, then I can start targeting and says, here are the most opportunistic places, rather than folks coming to us and say, hey, I think I found this place, this might be available, right? In addition, if we then bring land to the table, right, that's 1/8 the cost right off the bat. Bam, we're done, right? And that helps considerably. So when I talk about this idea of working with the transportation department and making sure that we're coordinating those efforts, it's not only defining those areas, but it's putting investment, we're already putting investment in, it's needed. So it hasn't been mapped. In addition, we are working with a organization now that their specialty is to not only find any public land anywhere within our area, right? But to give us detailed data about that land, because land is one thing, right? Does it have infrastructure? Is it, you know, is there environmental issues? Is there no way to be able to get the right of way? once you identify land, that's a first step, but you have to go in a lot more details to be able to look and say, is this developable? And quite frankly, right, we don't want to put people in places where it makes it more difficult to live, right? We want people to be able to access resources. We want to be able to get to shopping, and they won't be able to go to Kohl's anymore, but they may be able to get some other place, right? And so it's important for us to be able to make sure that we're also identifying places that are not only good from a financial and a regulatory standpoint, but good for the people themselves that will eventually live. This is going to be their homes.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair. So one of the other things that you mentioned was that the numbers that you presented were both non-MR and MR numbers. And what I've been trying to understand, and hopefully you can help me, is what percentage of our affordable housing development is being done with MR funds? And I think I could probably parse that out from the spreadsheet, but it's not all that.
Senator Counselor, to my knowledge and to date, none. That's why it's right off the bat in terms of when we say leveraging city monies, co-investments by both our department and MRA will get great value in terms of the level of affordable housing production.
Okay. So, Madam Vice Chair, I mean, on the spreadsheet, there is, for example, the top one on the second page, that clearly says there's MR funds being used to develop 14 units, 5 of which are affordable. But is that because that one's not completed yet, that you're saying none have been implemented?
Madam Chair, so there's 2 units that are not completed, 2 developments that aren't completed to date?
Got it. All right.
I'm so sorry.
I have a concern about that, right? We have these MR funds. They're very unrestricted. It feels to me that that should be a priority for the MR staff and the MR program. And so I really hope that we will see more MR funds being used for affordable housing in the very near future. And I'm seeing heads shaking, so hopefully we can see that. Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, I have 2 more. I'm sorry to take so much time. I only see, and perhaps I am missing one, I see 1 motel conversion on the list, and this is a new tool that we, just passed, and I see it as a really affordable way to create some affordable housing fast. And so I'd love to hear why there's 1, and if there are plans for more, and what we would need to do to get those moving.
Absolutely.
And
Chairman Davis.
specifically, quite a few in my district that I would like to see converted immediately.
Chairman Davis, Counselor, yes. So we only have 1 because we've only purchased 1 to date. We are actually in conversations to purchase another one that will be specifically for youth. And then, of course, we're looking for new opportunities. So we have spent the majority of the funds that you've provided us for both the tax credit, equity financing for tax credit units, and also for the current one that we're in the middle of completing. We intend to continue to do that. That being said, I also want to look at other opportunities that are cheaper, faster, quicker, and easier than even that. Because as you know, when the city does something, the prices go up, right? And you're not letting the value of the private sector's capacities benefit the city. Instead, what we're doing is we have a system in place where we're the one purchasing, we're the one rehabbing, we're the one managing and owning, right? Nothing wrong with that. We do that well. But is there ways to use our funds more effectively? So one way is, for instance, there's hotel conversions going on without us right now, right? And generally, they're pretty inexpensive. However, if we helped assist in financing those things, then we can put it on the nomenclature of what we define as affordable housing, right? And lock that in. And then, quite frankly, to be honest, then I can claim all the units that we assisted with, right? So let's just say there's a 100-unit complex that needs to be rehabbed. We assist in the financing of 30% of them. I get 30 units out of that quickly. I've still got the other units that are going to be relatively affordable. They're not according to our definition, but they're still going to be there. Cheaper, quicker, faster, and easier for us. So opportunities like that, in addition, can help, especially with the use of MRA monies, especially in very specific areas, say, for instance, around Manal. as a for instance.
I may or may not be talking about Manal, but I am.
Yeah.
Last question, and you and I have had this conversation. It's my understanding from all the research and all the analysis that I've read that we should be moving towards mixed development, mixed income development. We don't want to create entire developments that are all affordable housing. We don't want to create new developments that are zero affordable housing. We want to make sure that there's a blend. But I'm not necessarily seeing that blend in the spreadsheet. I see quite a few where, 42 units and all 42 are affordable housing, 81 units and all 81 were affordable housing. And then I see some that are shockingly 226 units and 0 were affordable housing. And so I'm just wondering what's the thought process that the staff uses to develop these programs, and why are we not seeing affordable housing in all of them, and then why are we seeing some that are just affordable housing? And what do we need to do to fix that if it's a problem, which it seems to me it is?
Chairman Davis, Councilor, great question. I'm glad you asked that. So, first of all, it's primarily a function of financing, where the money comes from. And when the money comes from certain sources for certain purposes, it can only be used for that. And so generally speaking, whether you're a public entity or a nonprofit or for-profit, when you're putting together, and the largest source of subsidies coming from the federal government is through tax credits, by far. And so when you're putting together a project such as that, right, it's mandating that it be affordable. It can't be used for anything else. Now, here's one of the nuances. What we're not doing is trying to concentrate folks at, like, for instance, at 30% of income in a development, right? Because that leads, as we've seen, and has been well documented and well read for many, many years now, that's what led to people believing that, well, I don't want affordable housing in my neighborhood. That's awful, terrible stuff, and it attracts, the wrong element, and it creates a slum atmosphere. If you look at the kind of developments that we have done in the past, right, just recently, you'll see that they're attractive, nice places to live. So making sure that those income variations within that, now, when we say that within that, we're talking about the lowest income up to, and sometimes percentages, sometimes it can go above 80%, but that's depending on the financing, depending on the deal that's made at MFA. And that generally doesn't go far because you're not getting any tax credits, and you need those tax credits to subsidize. So part of it is a matter of function. What we need to be looking at, and this is why I wanted to address this issue of let us try to market specifically where affordable housing units go, is the whole area can't be affordable, right? That's destructive, right? What you want to do is have mixed incomes and mixed use developments as much as possible, right? Meaning that you have a lively, highly dense kind of area with all kinds of folks in the same area. So some apartments may in fact actually be 100% affordable, right? Just because of the financing structure. But you don't want to have 10 of them in the same area. You want to have 1 out of 4, right? To be able to provide that kind of mix for a whole area. Because it's not a development that creates an issue. It's the area surrounding it. And so we need to be good about kind of our urban development in terms of where we're putting our resources and mix so that we're doing that.
Madam Vice Chair, I understand everything you said. I just have a moral problem with the city spending city staff time, city funding, money that comes into the city coffers from our taxpayers on developments that have 0 affordable housing in them. I'm looking at this list, and there are quite a few, and I especially given the crisis we're in right now, I believe that the market can develop its own high-end luxury units. What we should be focusing on is something that has some availability for people who are literally being priced out of housing right now, and their choices are the Arroyo or a homeless shelter.
Right.
And so I just have a problem with that, and I would like to see future ones not have 0 in that second column, or I'm going to have a problem.
Chairman Dave, Councilor, that's where this opportunity working with the MRA, it goes directly to what you're speaking about. Their funds are more flexible, and then we can actually start doing that. And again, the MRA is completely on board with us trying to combine our resources. fact, we're working on possibility of 2 deals right now, right, and sharing resources. I'm told that hadn't happened in the past, or at least you can tell it hadn't happened in the past, right? And so that's one thing I'm just really excited about is that, oh, your fund's a little more flexible. I can only use mine for these, but is it possible we can combine them up to do something?
Thank you, Deputy Director. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Counselor Lewis? Okay, thank you. Counselor Pena?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So a few added questions based on some of the counselors. So first of all, the presentation spreadsheet, I think that was mentioned. I didn't see the presentation in our packet. I was looking for it. So if you can send that as well, I would really appreciate it. And then, we're talking about these units needed, whether they're arbitrary numbers or fixed numbers. I would like to see if we can get a number of units that we need as a city, and then affordable housing units, because we seem like we're combining what we need in terms of housing and what we need in terms of affordability. And the reason I say that is because that leads to what Councilor Feeblecorn was saying, is that we're using some money and there's no affordability, and we're using lots of taxpayer dollars. So when some of the councilors are asking, where's this money and why aren't we having more affordable housing? Well, you can see that lots of the either tax abatement or whatever is going to just housing. So then comes to my other point, is that it seems kind of mixed when we're using MRA funds, because MRA funds are used for the redevelopment of areas, whether that's businesses or housing or the like, right? So I think that we shouldn't, as we're talking about affordable housing, we shouldn't really combine it with the MRA, other than some resources that can be allocated, because I know as myself and other councilors who abut Central don't want all our money used on just housing on Central. We have a lot of areas that need and are in dire need of redevelopment. So so that's a little confusing. And then we have this conversation about money being put into the affordable housing, and I know that we need it. There's things that we're doing. But I also want to say that, the rental assistance, the housing eviction prevention program, the housing rehab programs are also really in need. We have lots of people that come in front of us not every single meeting, but lots of meetings that are on the cusp of losing their homes, or they do lose their homes. And so I know that we put in, I think it was a couple of $1 million, but that could really be bolstered. So when we're talking about affordable housing, I kind of get a little iffy in terms of really, when we're talking about our priorities, and we're looking at all these other eviction programs, rental assistance, those should be bolstered as well to keep people in their housing and keep people at their rental house that they currently have. And then opening it up for an open RFP, I seen that as if they have a project ready, shovel ready, they can come in and just apply and try to access some dollars that we have available. That's cool. But then the other one, that opening it up for for-profits, who's making that decision? Is that a decision for the council to decide, or is that a decision for the administration to decide? Because I have a lot of concern with that. I know that nonprofits have been doing this. They're local nonprofits. They work in our community. They understand our community and the needs. And then they've opened it up to kind of partner with some of these for-profits to help to leverage money, as you've been describing all evening. But once you open it up for just for-profits, I mean, these small nonprofits are going to go out of business, and they really can't compete with larger out-of-state businesses. So I really have a lot of concern with that. If we're going to keep it to local businesses, perhaps, but if it's going to be to where we can get people from out of state applying, we're just really going to be investing that money, and then the money that's made as a result of that affordable housing, just like Kohl's, is going to go out of town. So, and then again, when you say that you have some of that mapped or looking at the mapping, I think you alluded to this a little while ago, some of the more marginalized communities are the ones that end up being inundated with these types of projects, whether they're mixed use or not. So just want to make sure, because when people are looking, and then especially for-profit businesses are looking for land, they're going to look for the cheapest lands, and those lands tend to be in communities like District 3 and District 6, and So there's some cautionary stuff within all this, even though I know there's a need for more affordable housing. And then when we're talking, you have it titled here as the city funding for housing production, preservation, 2018 to current. I think I would really love to see, and I don't know if other counselors, but I would really love to see something that talks about the affordable housing. I'd like to have a spreadsheet of affordable housing. And then these other things that are part of MRA, when we're talking about one of these that, this tax abatement for zero housing, tax abatement for another really large project that's zero housing. I think they're still justified because they fall within the MRA. So I think it's getting convoluted in here because those are areas that are in need of redevelopment. So if you did tax abatement and put the large amount of sum that are on some of these from MRA funds for like fixing, Uncertain Central or Franklin Plaza, then it's justified. So I think it's getting a little convoluted. And I think that's about it. So,
Chairman Davis,
you
Councilor,
take those
thank you.
serious.
I did want to address them because I think you brought up an extremely good point, especially relative to the nonprofits. So the idea is if in fact we are going to go from 200 units, which the nonprofits are doing, and they're doing a great job. I agree with you. They're partners. They're from here, and we've got a great partnership. We're talking about 5 timesing that amount. They don't have the capacity in themselves to be able to do that. So if we don't receive the money, we're not going to change anything because they're at the capacity right now. There's not enough money just for them. If we're going to increase that amount substantially, then they don't have the capacity. Now, if they knew that there's going to be amounts of money, they're going to be in, every year that they might be able to get access to on a competitive basis, they're going to also reinvest. So we're assuming, just with these numbers, we're assuming that they're going to double their capacity. And we hope that they double their capacity, right? Because it's important that we've invested for a long period of time. Many of these nonprofits who are part of the community, live and breathe here and have been doing a great job, and we have partnerships with them. So it's not that we would just open it up right away to for-profits. We wouldn't unless the money was available and that there was too much for them. In addition, as you can see, because of that, though, we did recognize that issue, is that one of the programs we have is kind of a community assistance program relative to the production of the nonprofit organizations. Right now, there's this called Section 4 monies, right? The federal government provides to be able to provide assistance. If we match those funds, we can provide a lot of technical assistance for those nonprofits to grow with us, right? And expand their capacity so that we have nonprofit organizations who are stable, who are strong, right? We did this quite a bit in the city of Santa Fe. We actually created the nonprofits. We created them, funded them, systemized them, and they were arms of the city. And that really showed because their production was enormous, right? In fact, they're coming to Albuquerque, right? Have been coming to Albuquerque. So that kind of thing is extremely important. In addition, we'd be happy to, that thing it has, it does include both the MRA and funds. We can separate them out, it's no problem. The MRA funds were a different color, so you could see that these are the MRA funded ones and the affordable. But if you wish, I'd be happy to just have 2 separate pages, if that makes it easy.
Madam Vice President. Yeah, because right now, currently, the list with the MRA isn't being used for affordable housing. So the whole list is not affordable housing. So if we then use MRA funds to do these projects that don't include affordable housing, they fall within the MRA, within the description of what a metropolitan redevelopment zone is. But in the future, if we're able to access some dollars for affordable housing within the MRA, then that should be included in here. So, thank you.
Any other questions for him? Yes.
Council President and councilors, I feel that we need just a couple of points of clarification, and I apologize, Councilor Bassan, if the 30,000 and the 5,000 a little bit confusing, but the study shows an estimated 30,000 in need. Our commitment, we want to commit to 5,000 as an administration. We think the market will take care of the rest. We know we can't do it all. So sorry that might have been a little confusing, but that's our intent. Our commitment is 5,000. I also heard Council President Davis, we need to ask, we need to work towards that. And with your help, I hope we can get there. And then, we talk about the gateway, and I know we have some disagreements on the gateway and where we're going with it and what we're doing, but the gateway was not going to be apartment complexes. It is going to be services. We have, beds there now. We're working to create more beds, but we are helping folks there now. We've got our partners there. You all have a lease coming before you for somebody else that's providing services there now to keep people off the streets or to get them into homes. But the gateway is not apartments. The gateway is a step to permanent housing. There are a lot of people that are going to need the help and the services that are going on there and that will be added there. So I really feel obligated to make sure that council understands that gateway is a step to getting folks there. And President Davis, I do understand the input and the output argument, and administration understands that as well. And we need everyone's help to get there. Thank you.
Councilor Bassan?
Madam Vice President, Mr. Sorso, what you said in the beginning about the 5,000 and 30,000, put that on the slide next time. That's clear, right? That's clear, is that we have 30,000 that we were told we needed. We're going to commit to 5,000. Boom. That's clear for all of us. Something says 5, anyway, so that would be great. I'm well aware that the gateway it's not going to be apartment complexes. That is one of the stories that has never been told. So, but what I am struggling with is $80 to $100 million to help 50 people. And to Councilor Davis's point, I mean, there's other nonprofits that are operating on $550,000 a year and they help 400 people a day. And I know that when Gateway's done, what we're told is that it's going to help that many people. But when will it be done? And it's a rhetorical question for right now, please. But at the same time, that's where. So since you're clarifying, I'll clarify. It's not that I don't support the idea of Gateway, it's that I don't support putting more money into it right now until I can see something proven and showing for it, helping the community. And I know that that's gonna be a problem, but we have to help the community. We cannot, this, I hope, is rock bottom for Albuquerque today, because we can't wait for that. So I know it's not apartment complexes, I'm very clear, but it's gotta help people if we're gonna be funneling millions of dollars when we need to leverage enormous amounts of funds in order to get more affordable housing.
Thank you.
If
Yes,
I may
Mr.
just,
Sorso.
one more. So we do have, to your point, we have 50 beds there. That's 50 people today being helped, but over a period of a year, that's more than 50 people because people come and go and enter and exit the facility. So I just want to make that clear as well. It's not just 50 people.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President? Okay, thank you. Thank you for this. This was a much-needed presentation, much-needed discussion, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you putting up with me for so long. And
Yes.
again, if you have any questions, any details, anything of that nature, more than happy to answer and work with you on any particular concerns you might have. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, we're going to move on to administration questions and answer period. Counselors, any questions for the administration? Counselor Pena?
I have one. It's actually for Director Montoya or the administration. We have the lights on Central, the arch lights, the half arches, the lights over the bridge. I've just really been trying to get an answer as to when. It's been a long time in coming. Constituents are asking. There was someone who was assigned to it before. I don't know if he's not there anymore. I mean, he did an excellent job. As soon as we called him, he ordered the parts and it was done. And so it's just really, I mean, we've made a huge investment as a city putting those arches along Central and then the lights, the festoon lights across the bridge. And for them to be out, it just looks like shabby.
Mr. President and Councilor Pena, we're quite aware of the situation. As a matter of fact, Rachel reached out to me just a little earlier before this meeting. I can say that part of the problem has been vandalism of the lights. So we constantly have either wire taken from there, we replace them. So we're looking at a way to improve the way that the wiring within the structure is there and how we improve those lights. We have ordered parts. Anthony Villanueva is the project manager. I believe that he has an answer for Rachel tomorrow afternoon. We have ordered parts. We're working with our local lighting company to see if we make that improvement. This is about the 4th time that we've had to replace those lights within the last year and a half, I believe. Some have gone on. Those are the neon lights. There's been some discussions with the public art program because that is a public art piece that was actually conveyed or donated to the streets program. So we're aware of it. We should have a clear answer for Rachel by midday tomorrow.
Madam Vice President, or who took over? You took over, okay. So you're saying, can you repeat that? Because you're saying that the lights, are you talking about the festoon lights that they've been cutting the wires? Because the ones on Central have been, it's the same ones that have been out for a long, long time.
So I thought you were asking about the neon sign over Route 66. The festoon lights over the bridge, actually, I noticed them Saturday night coming back from the football game. So there is a string of those lights that are on the north side of the bridge. Those, well, some on the very south end, but mostly on the north end from what I could tell. In any event, they have been reported to Dalkia. They were reported to Jeff Gray is our project manager. He's aware of it. He's reported it to Jonathan with Dalkia. I don't have an answer. They usually respond within 72 hours to have those replaced. I will follow up with them first thing in the morning, but Dalkia, the company that does those lights for us, is aware of the situation.
Okay, and I just want to say that with the vandalism on the arches, I just find that a little bit, because it's really interesting, because when we first put those arches up many, many moons ago, you know, people were like, why are you doing that on West Central? People are going to vandalize them. And they haven't been. People don't write graffiti on them. They don't, they really appreciate them and have, you know, and I get calls from all over the place. As a matter of fact, I was at Walgreens, and when we walked in the other day, some homeless guy said that the arches are out. He's like, I know who you are. The arches are out. And so, you know, I just, and like I said, the lights that are out have been the same lights that are out. So I just really want them up. I don't know. We've been calling, and Rachel's been, you know, emailing, and it's just taken quite a long time, and people are getting frustrated. So I don't mean to harp on it, but I really, really want them fixed.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I don't have any questions tonight. Not right now. Okay, let's move on to the journal. I move approval of the September 6th journal. All right, all those in favor of accepting the journal, raise your hand and say aye, or yes. Okay, approve, or any noes? Okay, motion passes. Counselor, Mr. President.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all for your patience this evening. We appreciate that. It's a good meeting to have those presentations and proclamations and questions. Moving on to our changes to the letter of introduction. Counselors, are there any changes to the letter? Seeing none.
Mr. President, I move approval of the letter of introduction.
We have a second from Council Feeblecorn and others. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes. Raise your hand.
Yes.
That matter carries unanimously. Next up, we have reports of committees. Mr. Chair, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance and Government Operations Committee met on Monday, September 11th, and reports out the following items in the matter of EC-346 and EC-347 that they be approved. In the matter of R-160, R-161, and R-162 that they do pass. I make a motion to accept the committee reports.
We have a motion and a second to accept the report. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes. Raise your hand.
Yes.
That matter carries unanimously. Councilors, we are on to deferrals and withdrawals. Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Mr. President. With regard to R-163, directing the City of Albuquerque Transit Department and Rio Metro Regional Transit District to conduct a study for consolidating ABQ Ride and Rio Metro and develop a consolidation plan and appropriating funding, I move a deferral until October 2nd.
We have a motion in several seconds. Mr. Cornelius, I believe we had some folks signed up for public comment on item 23-163. We may have 3 in person and 1 on Zoom. As is our practice, we're going to allow those folks, if they'd like to, make a comment on this before we defer, in case they have a comment on the deferral. However, they're reminded that they can come back in 2 weeks and comment on the bill when we take it up for action, so they don't have to use it today. But if you came all the way down here, we want to be sure to acknowledge that. Mr. Cornelius, would you call those speakers briefly?
Thank you, Mr. President. Our first speaker is Crystal Garcia, followed by Joanne Garcia.
And if you don't want to use it, that's fine. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
No.
Nope, I don't see Ms. Garcia. Oh, there's somebody there.
So I actually signed up on the wrong one. I wanted to do the general comment, but I just have a question about the appeal for Flora Garcia.
Okay. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So we'll put you on general comment and we'll talk about that when we get to
Okay,
that.
I just wanted to know if it's going to be deferred.
It is our intent to do that this evening so that the folks that needed to participate have the option to review the LUHO's recommendations, but we'll have to see if the council will approve that in just a minute. That's next.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just a second. Thanks.
Joanne Garcia, followed by Patricia Martinez.
Same thing.
Okay. Sorry. No problem. Moving on. Althea on Zoom.
Okay, Althea Atherton on Zoom.
Hi, thank you very much. President Davis and members of the City Council. I'm the bus rider project manager with Together for Brothers and the Albuquerque Bus Riders Union. I also, now that that letter of introduction has passed, I'm a nominee for the Transit Advisory Board. While I'm not necessarily opposed to studying this merger, the timing feels strange. We're amidst a major redesign right now with Jarrett Walker and Associates, and phase 2 of public outreach was just recently published on the ABQ Ride Forward site. I don't believe that focus groups or survey respondents were asked about this potential merger, and we haven't been evaluating the Rio Metro lines right now as part of that process. And I just have a lot of questions about whether this would delay the process until Rio Metro is potentially folded into ABQ Ride or vice versa. What happens if Jarrett Walker and Associates comes back with their final proposal and then they merge this in? There's just a lot of details. And I was also a little bit disappointed to learn that the Transit Advisory Board was not consulted prior to this ordinance's filing. Citizen advisory boards serve as a crucial role in government accountability. And our Transit Advisory Board has like some really incredible experts who shared their concerns at the recent meeting that they weren't consulted on this first. So I just wanted to make sure that we named that in this space. It would have been great, if they had been consulted about this. And I've been trying to get some of the meeting notes on Rio Metro's board. Unfortunately, the last Friday meeting was canceled. So they haven't posted their minutes in several months. So I have an email out. I'm waiting to hear back about that, but I would love to hear, when we do talk about this on October 2nd, what some of the members, several of the counselors are on that board, right? What they are saying about the other council of government members and whether they've been consulted on this. So I'm not necessarily proposed, I just have some questions. Thank you.
Well timed, and thanks. Congratulations on your nomination. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. And I
Thank
know
you.
the Transit Advisory Board will have a couple of weeks to weigh in as well, so hopefully we'll hear from you. Mr. Cornelius.
That concludes comment on this topic.
We have the motion on the floor for a deferral from Councilor Benton until October 2nd. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes, raise your hand.
Yes.
I get 9 votes, and that matter passes. While we're on deferrals, councilors, I'm going to take up the appeal really quickly. I'll make a motion to defer the AC 2312, which is the appeal on this evening's agenda. As we mentioned earlier, some of the parties were inadvertently may not have had the full amount of time necessary to review the LUHO recommendations, and so I'm going to recommend and make a recommendation that we defer this for 2 weeks on recommendation of legal counsel to be sure that all the parties have had adequate notice. And so I'll make that motion. I'll ask if there's any questions. Ms. Ronquillo can give us some background, but we have a second from Councilor Grout. Any questions? So we will. Yes, Councilor Benton. I thought you might. Ms. Ronquillo, come on down.
Yeah, I guess I don't fully understand, that we're suddenly hearing this now, that there's a need for deferral. What is the failure to notify or?
Ms. Ronquillo, can you tell us a little bit about the procedural process for getting this to us today? And Councilor, I think this is sort of a last-minute thing. It was discovered a minute ago. So.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Benton. So it was discovered that some of the parties involved in this appeal were inadvertently left off of the email thread that the city uses to transmit messages to all the parties, including the LUHO transmitting his recommendation and our office scheduling the hearing for the accept or reject proceeding.
Thank you.
And so, Ms. Ronquillo, just, we know the parties are here this evening, but to give them the adequate time required under the process, we think it's best to defer for 2 weeks so everybody has that full notice time. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. President.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councilor Bassan, briefly.
Mr. President, so now everyone's been notified? Or we've corrected the problem so that in 2 weeks we're good to go?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, yes, everyone should be in the loop at this point.
Just wanted to make sure, thank you.
And we know they know because they're here. Councilors, any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of a 2-week deferral on AC 12, say yes. Raise your hand.
Yes.
Good. 9. Okay. 9-0. For the parties involved, you'll get a new notice, but that'll be at our October 2nd, right, meeting? Okay. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Didn't want you to have to wait out that, so thanks for being patient with us. Councilors, we are back on general public comment, right?
No, consent.
No, we should do consent, because that's the only thing we have to do. Councilors, are there any changes to consent agenda? Before we get to those, I do want to say thank you. I have a number of folks volunteering to serve on our boards and commissions, and we greatly appreciate your service. We hope you enjoy your service, and we look forward to hearing from you. Councilor Grout, Madam Vice President.
Mr. President, I pull EC 341, item A off the consent agenda.
That item will be removed and discussed individually. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda? Seeing none.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second from Councilor Bassan. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say yes. Raise your hand. Yes. That gets 9 votes. That brings us to EC 341.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Robert Martinez for agreeing to serve on the Public Safety Tax Advisory Board. I appreciate your service to our community, our country, and all that you've done over the years. So thank you. I know you'll be a great advocate for the city. Thank you. Getting back to EC 341, I think we need to speak to somebody in Family and Communities or Housing. I'm not sure what it is now.
And Madam Vice President, while we're doing this, let me just make a motion to approve, just so we can have an item on the floor for the discussion. Is there a second? Second from Councilor Bassan. So now, just to be sure we're on the record.
Thank you. Sir, looks like this company has been renting space at the Gateway since December, and now we're waiving rent in exchange for providing services. So just so I can learn a little bit more about this, is this company current on their rent as outlined in the original contract? Or has this been their informal arrangement since December?
President Davis, Councilor Grout, the Vision Syncova is not currently current on their rent. We've had this arrangement with them since shortly after they begin leasing the space and offering these services. And we determined at that particular point in time that the wraparound services being offered by Vision Syncova were more valuable to the city than actually getting the rent. We wanted to collect that information and do this lease differently and do it in kind services.
Was this the intent all along?
I would say that it was not originally the intent, no.
Okay, is the 5% penalty being assessed in the fees?
At this time, we haven't been assessing the 5% penalty as we renegotiate this lease and we go forward.
Because that was written into the lease. So, okay. The services that they've provided or that they're going to provide, they're very well outlined in the EC. Is this nonprofit fully staffed?
Mr. President, Councilor Grout, the nonprofit is fully staffed at this particular point in time.
Okay, thank you. And will they be providing these services in the Gateway or at another location?
Mr. President, Councilor Grout, they are providing the services currently at Gateway in a building that's adjacent to the property, and they were also going to be working in our engagement center in the Gateway proper itself.
Thank you. Has an RFP been issued for these services?
President Davis, Councilor Grout, an RFP has not been issued for these services as we originally entered into a lease agreement with Vision Syncova, and that wasn't required at the time.
Okay, and are you receiving the monthly reports that is required in this agreement?
President Davis, Councilor Grout, we are not getting monthly reports at this particular point in time as we are waiting approval of this amendment.
And Mr. Chaplin, I want to weigh in if it's okay with the counselor. See, Mr. Whalen wants to weigh in here as well to respond to one of those questions.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yes.
Council President, Councilor Grout. So this lease was originally, and they were under the assumption that that could be used for the rent. So that's why the initial lease was done the way it was, because they were receiving that money. Once they began to operate, they found out that they couldn't use that money for rent. So that's when the city went back and started negotiating with them to figure out how we could make it work because of all the services that they provide at the Gateway. And they see at least 100 people a month. So in that original lease, they were intending to pay because they did funding, but they just didn't understand the complexity of the funding, and we helped them understand that. They couldn't pay rent, so that's why we're coming back today to amend the lease, and the reporting requirements don't kick in until this is approved. In the original lease, they didn't have to report anything because they were paying rent. You know, they were paying rent and seeing as many, offering as many services and talking to as many people as they needed to. But with this, what it does is now it requires them to give us that information because we are letting them use in-kind. And it does have a time frame as to when they need to give us those reports once this is approved. And that's why this amendment is very important. The cost to the city to offer those services would be a far more than it's about $5,500 a month.
Okay, thank you for that. How many tenants in the Gateway pay in services rendered instead of monetary rent?
President Davis, Councilor Grout, there are currently two, if this is approved tonight, Vision Syncova and NAMI, who leases a small space from us as well.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate this clarity. It's just, I understand it much better now. It just needs to be clear. Thank you.
Thanks. And if Director or Mr. Whalen, I'm sorry, it's going to take me a minute on that one. Remind me, but you mentioned that the organization had acquired some capital outlay to build out some facilities of their own. As I understand, and I think we've had this discussion to be sure that it was okay, they've dedicated some of that capital outlay to improve the Gateway Center space for themselves and others, sort of as a value there as well. Is that correct?
Council President Davis and Councilor Grout, we don't have the grant, so I don't think they've dedicated any yet. So, because their intention was to pay for rent, so.
Okay. So we're going to work with the state to see if we can allocate that towards those services, if I understand correctly, right? We're going to.
Council President Davis, yes, we're definitely going to continue to work with it because the funding is there, and we would really like to be able to use that if possible, especially to help a nonprofit that is doing some substantial work in that area and some substantial work in the city.
And this has been, and I appreciate this, and I don't think this won't pass. I want to be clear, like, this is an organization that's done a lot of really great work with our immigrant community and with low-income folks in the International District and others, from food programs to homeless and housing transition. They've sent, I see Khadija there, but dozens of folks I know that we've met in the community that have transitioned to housing or programs, work programs, training and education programs. They do a great job, and I know several legislators which are assisting them. It just turns out that being at Gateway is a better, despite all our conversations tonight, is a better home for them because there's a synergy there. And so we want to be sure that those funds to support that community are better used. So I think this is great. They do a good job. It's a council initiative that we started years ago, and the city's picked it up as a recurring piece. And I think it's under our contract limit every year, so we'll be fine. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for all the clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Oops. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those, the motion on the floor is for to approve EC 341. All those in favor say yes. Please raise your hand. That gets 9 votes, and that is unanimous. That is all of our things to do, but we want to hear from you. We are up to general public comment. Members of the public can provide live comment to the City Council in person or virtually if they have signed up for public comment per the instructions published on our agenda. The public ground rules are each person has up to 2 minutes to present, though you need not use it all. Each comments are to be addressed to the councilors only through the council president, and any disruptive comment in violation of the rules provided outside and sign up could result in removal from the meeting. There is a 2-minute time limit, and a bell will ring when your time is up. The folks online, I think I recognize all but one of them. Most of them know how that works. They'll see a timer as well. And I see lots of folks are leaving, but Mr. Cornelius, call our first speaker.
Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, I just want to clarify that if people are here to speak on the appeal that was deferred, what are the rules on that?
I appreciate that. I was going to get to that when we got to them. So if you're here to speak on any of the zoning matter tonight, the appeal that we deferred or anything else that relates to a zoning matter that's coming to us, you're not allowed to speak to us tonight. It's against the rules. We have to treat that like a judicial hearing, like a court hearing, meaning you have to be sworn in. We have to schedule that, and there are rules around that. You can speak to us about anything else in the city as long as it doesn't relate to that piece of property or that process. We'll do that in 2 weeks, and part of that notice explains how that works. Thanks for that reminder. And I know some of those folks are there. So if you're here for that and you don't have anything else to talk to us about, just tell us it's okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our first speaker is Annalee Desaulniers, followed by James Freeman.
It's okay. Hi, counselors. Good to see you all again. My name is Annalee Desaulniers. I'm an organizer with the People's Housing Project. I'm sure you all know why I was here, but there's plenty more to speak on while I'm here anyway. So, yeah, I thought it was really great that we got to get some information about the current status of the housing crisis and what's been going on in the past 5 years. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to point out some things that have happened in the last year. I noticed that one of the things that they're trying to do is keep track of how many units are becoming that were affordable, that are not being affordable. At this point, they've run out of that time limit, and that's something that we've consistently talked about how we really feel like money is just kind of being funneled down the drain when we give out money for developers to make affordable housing, but then it's only affordable for a certain amount of years. And then we're having to catch up on that. And so why are we doing that? That doesn't make sense to me at all. Why not make permanently affordable housing, also known as rent-controlled housing? 1 year ago to the day tomorrow, we rallied outside saying that we need rent control. You just heard from that presentation as well that affordability is the worst that it's been ever, and that half of renters are burdened by that. So yeah, I think the answer is really abundantly clear, and I think that there are developments that we're talking about that are being appealed. There's many other developments that are being done in a way where, yes, there's an affordable housing component, but if we're making the general area unaffordable and gentrifying some of our historically, blue-collar, working-class affordable neighborhoods, then, we're at a net loss. So thank you for hearing me, and we'll see you October 2nd.
James Freeman, followed by Crystal Garcia.
Good evening, y'all. President Davis and counselors. I will quote and refer to an article titled "The End of Airbnb in New York," written by Amanda Hoover and published September 5th in Wired.com. Thousands of Airbnb and other short-term rentals are expected to disappear from rental platforms as New York City begins enforcing tight restrictions. New York's version of the City Council did not pass a watered-down version limiting STRs that grandfathered everyone in. They understood that we are in a national housing crisis, and they acted appropriately to create a hard reset for the STR industry. As Local Law 18 comes into effect, all short-term rentals must register with the city. The host must be physically present at all times when someone is renting, and all rentals are capped at 2 guests. For the sake of round numbers, I'm going to say there are 3,000 here. There are only 22,000 in New York City, in a city of 8 million people. So New York City has 14 times the population of Albuquerque, but we have 20 times per capita the amount of STRs as New York City. And they decided the situation was so dire, they passed this law. I implore y'all to search your conscience and find the will and courage to do the right thing and reset the industry in our great city before it is too late. Los Angeles is actually trying to build their way out of their housing crisis. They have 1.1 million units under construction or development right now. instead of just focusing on affordable. Just build housing, just build it, and then we could have naturally occurring affordable housing. Thank you.
Crystal Garcia, followed by Calvin Bruce.
It's on the appeal. Mr. Bruce, welcome.
Calvin Bruce, followed by Beatrice Villegas.
Good evening, Council, Mr. President, and Madam Vice President. Just a quick introduction. My name is
I
Calvin
can barely
Bruce.
hear you. Could you speak up just a little louder?
My name is Calvin
Not very
Bruce.
close, just louder.
That's okay. My name is Calvin Bruce. My district is number 9, and my council representative is Madam Vice President. So nice to meet you. I just want to chime in real quick about gun violence in the city and the crazy crime that we're having, the violence in the city, and chiming in what the governor is doing. I just hope that there's something in place for law enforcement, the men and women in blue, when that time comes to push this initiative forward. The website has so much information on it. I haven't delved into it fully, but I just want to say my comment is I hope that we are prepared and ready when it goes full throttle to help curb the violence in this city, because it is insane. And that would be for us, our children, and future generations. Thank you. Oh, and Mr. President, we have a mutual acquaintance. She told me to do a formal introduction later, Karen Bash.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Beatrice Villegas, followed by Bex Hampton.
Good evening. My name is Beatriz Villegas. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk. By day, I'm a social worker, and so I'm here to talk to you about what I've noticed as a social worker working with families looking for housing. I'm very, very disappointed by the number of Airbnbs that we do have in the city throughout the neighborhoods when our families are trying to find a place to live. I have families living in RVs with multiple children because they can't find a place to rent because everything is so high, or because people aren't willing to rent to them. So I'm hoping that you guys could do something and work towards maybe controlling the amount of Airbnbs available. Landlords as well, what I've encountered, many of them are out of state. So trying to reach out to them, to try to work with them, to work with their families has been a challenge. I was very happy to be here during the presentation on housing today. Something that was a concern to me was that was pointed out that they want to open RFPs to developers for profit. That is very concerning to me. I feel that the for-profit developers that I've encountered through my work have definitely tried to change the rules a little bit so that it becomes for profit, not for the people. So please keep looking out for that. As a social worker, as a community worker, I promise to try to give you an information that I can also find. So thank you for your time.
Bex Hampton, followed by Luna Olivaria Gallegos.
Hey, Council President, everybody. I just wanted to speak a little bit about a money-hungry developer in our city. There's many of them, but Chad Reniker in particular has developed or built many, many properties here. Chad is a money-hungry developer trying to buy and sell our neighborhoods for profit, and it's really important that we stand up to profiting developers and defend our neighborhoods from displacement and gentrification. And we all know that, as this presentation we saw, there's a housing crisis. We've known that there's a housing crisis. A lot of this information wasn't new, and we really can't rely on housing profiteers, people who are building housing for profit, to build us out of this. And we really demand that all housing built is high quality, permanently affordable, rent-controlled, publicly owned housing. And if we're worried about maintaining the affordability of LIHTC housing and other, affordable housing, what we really need is rent control so that landlords can't raise the rents beyond what we can afford. And, developers, especially Chad Reniker, doesn't offer this type of affordable housing despite claiming to build it. And, because of the conditions of the artisans apartments that were built by Palindrome, that's owned by Chad Reniker, and are now managed by Pacific Cap, that's also owned by Chad Reniker. They're so terrible that tenants have formed a tenants union there. And yeah, just overall, we're gonna continue to do this work in fighting gentrification and fighting for affordable housing. And I think it's really clear that the residents of Albuquerque stand united. Our neighborhoods are not for sale. We don't want more taxpayer money for developers. We want permanently affordable, rent-controlled housing, and we want rent control still. Thank you.
Luna Olivaria Gallegos, followed by Cameron Martinez.
Hello, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'd like to talk about dignified housing for the residents of Albuquerque. This is where I was born and raised, where I live. One example, we have so many examples of developments that have happened in the past couple of years, but I want to talk about the sawmill development in particular today. The Sawmill Tenants Union that we just heard being talked about, they live in buildings managed by Pacific Crab and they've detailed their uninhabitable conditions, including living amongst fire hazards, overflowing trash cans, unsafe roofs that leak water. We live in the United States of America. This is undignified housing. And not to mention that the rent goes up each year and is higher than the $450 monthly payment that was defined as low income in an earlier presentation today. And this is happening across the city. We know this. Albuquerque is growing in terms of how much rent costs faster than anywhere else in the nation. And another issue with development, like places like Sawmill and Novato, they're unaffordable to most people. So KOB reported last year that Sawmill residents were not able to afford the Sawmill market, and one resident said it's too expensive and what we need is a grocery store. So the way that I see this as a resident of Albuquerque who's spent my whole life here is that it seems like the intentions of a lot of these projects are to raise property value, to create profit for outsiders, while the people who live here and are from here can't afford their rent or basic needs each month. And I believe in development, and I believe that there are great alternatives to development that can actually be for the people instead of for bad faith, out-of-state developers. Thank you.
Cameron Martinez, followed by Tomas Rodriguez.
Hello, City Council. Well, I'm here to speak about the housing crisis we all know is happening in Albuquerque. I want to say, that in Albuquerque, there's many property management companies where profit is a priority over the well-being of the community. And if you let a few of these companies in, it opens the door for many others, and seems like they can just do whatever they want. I've spoken with many tenants and seen the conditions that they live in under these slumlords, and it's not right. This is undignified housing, and we need affordable, permanently affordable, dignified housing in this city and all over New Mexico and all over the nation. And I've heard you all speak about doing what's best for the community here. And if you really want to do what's best for the community, you need to speak with the community. And you need to listen to what they're saying, So that's really what I have to say is you really need to listen to the community, listen to the people, and that we need rent control, we need permanently affordable housing and dignified housing in Albuquerque. Thanks.
Tomas Rodriguez, followed by Tad Nimitsky.
President Davis, council members, my name is Tomas Rodriguez, and I work for the Mortgage Finance Authority. That's not why I'm here today. I'm here today to talk about the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center. And it's really, I'm here as a representative of the swimming community. This is a project that is really close to my heart, and I really hope that you move forward on it. And for the main reasons that we only have one facility or one public swimming pool here that can support our swim teams and our swimming community. And it's 25 years old, and it puts us and it puts our swimmers at a competitive disadvantage. And the only thing I would say to that, a new facility would help not only our swimming community, but it would help the city in general. We have a great airport, we have great restaurants, hotels, and it's just a place I've lived and was born, so I believe in our community, and I believe in our heritage, and I think it would attract large meets and a large body of people coming into our city and supporting our city. That's why I'm here today, is to advocate for this. So please see this to the end. Our swimming community needs it, and I believe Albuquerque in general needs it. Our kids need something else to do besides being in front of the screens. They need something else to do besides, running the streets. I think this is a good project, and it'll help them do that. Thank you.
Tad Numitsky, followed by Sophia Elefthero.
My name is Tad Numitsky. Excuse me. Affordable housing, nonprofit. That is, yes, that is affordable to developers to build it and become millionaires. That is affordable to them, not for general public. So, and of course, milking money from the city, paying 30%, some of it only up to 30%, some of it not even 30%. Rest of it the government covers. Okay, who's under whose leadership? Director, Family and Community Services. She is nothing short as thorough. One day said something that politicians like cockroaches. Once they invaded, hard to read of it. Who said that? President Donald Trump? No, I didn't hear that. Now, when it comes to the city streets, now how pleasant to drive when cops not around. Not hardly any cops. And we live in driving in civilized, driving on civilized streets with civilized drivers. So now city council have to clean up own act. Deleted, unusable, ordinancy. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Sophia Eleftheriou, followed by Joanne Garcia, if you'd still like to speak.
Oh, it's fine. You actually did great. I'm Sophia Eleftheriou. Thanks for listening to me tonight. I own a property in Nob Hill that my direct neighbor to the north is the Highway House Motel. For over 4 years ago, there was an explosion there, which not only blew up most of the motel or some of the motel very badly, but also blew up part of my building, which I had to completely rebuild, which I did. The motel has yet to do any repairs, and there have been several fires. There was one just last week that the fire department responded to. There's been smaller ones that they have not responded to. I mean, I could go on with you guys about how problematic this is for Nob Hill. I am her only, I am the motel's only direct neighbor, but the whole neighborhood is affected by this. And I have my neighbors who are businesses and residents come to me to ask what's going on with the motel, and I'm coming to you guys to see what's going on with the motel because nobody would do work on my building until steel supports were put up so it did not fall on my building. Those steel supports are gone. There's 2x4s there now that are leaning on my building. I'm just waiting for the day for it to fall on me. I don't have tenants, even though my building is now beautiful. I don't understand why it's not, has not been marked as condemned or substandard. It has, but there's people living there still.
Where?
What's that?
Yes.
There.
Ask why.
Yeah. So.
Sal, I did a news story last week with Channel 4 about this, and because we couldn't get the planning department to give anybody any updates about this, but this project, this property is the motel that exploded, had a piece of an explosion in 2019 before COVID. It was red tagged. It has been nominated for the ADAPT list at least 6 times by my office, and they keep telling us they're working with somebody to get permits. They let somebody, it was sold and then got new building permits, but were never picked up according to the planning department and the follow-up that they gave to Sean in my office. The new person got permits to clean up the property last year, but no one ever picked them up. They just filed them, and then it has had fires, it has had code enforcement, and no one seems to follow up on any of this. Like, it has violations and we don't enforce them. It is dilapidated and is supposed to have been torn down 2 years ago. Why is this continuing to occur?
Council President, Council.
Eric, can y'all work on their mic? We can't hear them.
Can you hear me?
A little better.
How about now?
Just speak loud. There you go.
Okay. That's right on top of the mic. I do have to comment, I drove by it the other day and there were fire trucks and police cars out front, and I wondered myself what was going on that particular day. But I am happy to work with our DAP program, AFR and planning, and happy to get an answer for council. And
Sophia Eleftherio.
let me get your contact information and
Great.
we will get back to you. We'll look into it.
Thank you.
We'll look into it this week and we'll get
Yeah,
back to you.
We can follow up. I know we can do that again, but Sophia, I know, I'm sorry you didn't get to open your ice cream shop. I'm very disappointed, but I'm excited for what you are doing.
Right.
I mean, this really has had an impact on the neighborhood. Like, it delayed the opening of the restaurant across the street because they couldn't use the parking that was required for their permits because it was out of service for the construction that never happened.
But movies have been filmed there.
Yeah. It's been an eyesore. I appreciate it. And we've talked about it. I just know that the planning department to the news and to my office last week gave us permit numbers that were applied to fix everything, and then they expired because nobody picked them up, but nobody enforced it, and we keep giving them red tags, but nothing to do about it. So maybe we could follow up. I think it's something we can prioritize because it is becoming, I know we had 3 fires in 3 days, but as you mentioned, it's a daily thing now that portion of the property that's uninhabitable is clearly inhabited, and it is concerning because there are people living in the rest of that motel while they're trying to rehab it, or sell it would be nice. And maybe we should just buy it and do it ourselves. But anyway.
That'd be great.
Yeah, thanks. Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to do the exact same thing. I wanted to make sure that they connected, to make sure that she had some answers moving forward.
Our next speaker is Joanne Garcia, followed by Sarah Osherman.
I think Ms. Garcia left. She was here on the appeal.
Sarah Osherman, followed by George Slad.
Looks like Sarah's gone.
George Slad, followed by Patricia Martinez.
Good evening, President Davis and city councilors. Name's George Slad. I am a local pilot. I volunteered to serve on the Airport Advisory Board not too long ago. I was graciously interviewed by the director of the Aviation Department. He passed along my paperwork to this mayor's office. Mayor's office signed off on my application. I learned via Mr. Manzano of the mayor's office on the 6th of September that Councilor Sanchez removed my name from consideration. I've attempted contacting you by email, Councilor Sanchez. I hadn't received a reply as to why I was not accepted, and I'm here to ask for an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slad. I'll be setting up a meeting with you soon.
Excuse me?
I'll be setting up a meeting with you soon. As a matter of fact, you could speak with Brandon right over here, and he'll get it taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is I have Patricia Martinez, followed by John Roberts. John Roberts, followed by Teddy and Nick Decker on Zoom.
Mr. Roberts, good to see you. Last I saw you, we were all in the wild at, where were we? Steel Bender, I think. Planning around the train.
Yes. President Davis, councilors, thank you. My name is John Roberts. I'm president of the New Mexico Heritage Rail, owners and operators of former Santa Fe steam locomotive 2926, the one that was in Coronado Park. It is now one of the largest operating steam locomotives in the nation, and we are here to invite you to our first New Mexico Railroad Days event. We have handouts for anybody that's interested.
Pass that to our staff, and they'll get those to us.
Thank you. We plan on having our locomotive and a couple of others from BNSF, Amtrak, and possibly Rio Metro on display, along with some displays in the parking lot at the North Albuquerque Rail Yards. The other thing I'm asking is we are having a very difficult time getting a hold of anybody in the city to allow us access into that area, open up restrooms for us and things like that. We've been working for some time now and we can't get a response from anybody. And those are some things we need for this event. And it's at the end of the month.
Mr. Sursau, is that MRA under you or is that Mr. Whalen?
We can offer assistance, Counselor.
Okay. Are y'all connected?
Yeah. All right.
All right.
All right. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
We next have Teddy and Nick Decker on Zoom, followed by Harold Hallmarson.
Mr. President and esteemed members of the council, my name is Teddy Decker, and this is my husband, Nick Decker. We both swam for UNM and met on the swim team 32 years ago. Swimming has always held a very important role in our lives. We moved into the Northeast Heights with our young family and were excited to hear rumors of a great new pool that was slated to be built nearby. We dreamed that our kids would be able to swim there when they were ready to attend high school at La Cueva. 15 years later, when our kids were on the La Cueva swim team, we were still dreaming, and our kids were forced to drive over 30 minutes each way to get to Highland Pool to even participate with the swim team. Some other kids that weren't able to drive, didn't have a car, or couldn't afford the gas prices to drive back and forth, weren't able to participate in this sport that they love. Fast forward another 6 years, and now there's another glimmer of hope that the aquatic facility will finally be built. My husband and I, and now our kids, are still very active members in United States Masters Swimming and continue to swim and compete and are interested in starting adult learn to swim programs using grants available through USMS, but we're struggling to find good, safe facilities in northern Albuquerque. We urge you to please secure the final dollars for the North Domingo Baca pool that is so dearly needed for our community. We have people lined up around the city ready to take advantage of this beautiful new pool, not to mention the tourism and people it will bring from other states. Thank you for your time.
Harold Hallmarson, followed by Angelina Crowley.
Do I have to, oh, here we go, okay. Thank you. I'm aware of that there are very many problems afflicting Albuquerque nowadays, and I'm very supportive about solving our housing problems. And I'd like to talk about 9/11 response, police response. I spoke about this 2 years ago, and I know that the issues are recognized and there's efforts to alleviate the response issues, and I've seen some improvement when I've called the non-emergency number. But I thought I would just describe what happened to me about 10 days ago, just to illustrate that we still have issues. It's the following. At approximately 10 p.m. on Saturday, September 9th, 2023, I encountered a pickup truck going backwards in my lane while driving north on Eubank near the intersection with Juan Tabo. I did vigorous braking and drove backwards for a few feet. The vehicle hit the curb and came to a stop with the front portion in my lane and the rear portion on the sidewalk. I called 911 immediately. The windows were tinted black. I couldn't detect any activity in the vehicle. After a few minutes, I became concerned about a possible medical condition, such as so I knocked on the window and found out that they had run out of gas. The male passenger seemed to be trying to get help. Later, while I was shopping at the nearby Smith's store, 10 or 20 minutes later, the 911 operator responded. I expressed much concern about not getting any advice at a time that I thought was such advice was really urgent. In closing, I read an article a few days ago about a person.
Please finish your thought.
Yeah, finish your thought there, Mr. Halverson.
Okay, a few days ago about a person who was aiding a deer that was crossing the street. He was giving instructions to drivers who were cooperating. One person thought his actions were threatening. He had a gun by his side. He used it to fire a warning shot. However, he hit and killed the person who was doing the law enforcement task. So I know it's just an anecdote, but I thought I would try to illustrate some of the issues.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Our final speaker this evening is Angelina Crowley.
Hello, yes. I'd like to speak to the housing crisis and the housing presentation. I think the narrative of developers is the narrative the city's taken about that vouchers and tax credits and giving money to developers to make this so-called affordable housing is the only way to do it. But like y'all said, the city and the state has money, and y'all should develop high quality, affordable housing for people. Housing is a human right, no matter what these people's conditions are. And the houselessness crisis is a public health crisis, and it affects everyone, whether you're homeless or not, whether you have a family member who's homeless or not. And urgent action is needed, and it's not just giving money to developers, especially those that want to gentrify historic neighborhoods of Albuquerque. We don't want them there. Thank you.
Mr. President, that concludes general public comment.
Thank you, folks. We want to welcome Mr. Isaac Padilla. It's his first day as our new director officially. He's kind of taking notes in the back there, but say thank you to Isaac, and thank you to Mr. Moya for your service to us. This is the last agenda you helped to lead and put together. I think you did an excellent job, and I hope that this is the new standard, Mr. Padilla. Your job depends on it. Folks, there being no other business, this meeting is adjourned.
No, I drove by it the other day and I'm like, what the hell? We got all